Hello, everyone. Welcome to Popcast on the Rocks, episode 71. It's another Wednesday. My name is John. We're here to talk about pop culture things. Once again by Andrea
Hey, everybody.
and returning guest Shane.
Hello.
So we've got good stuff planned for the night. Later, if you all have seen it, the newest Suicide Squad movie has released, is available on HBO Max and in theaters. And yeah, all three of us saw it. So we will get spoilery about that later. So yeah, in the meantime, Shane, how was your week?
It was good. I went back and in the context of discussing the Suicide Squad today, watched the other Suicide Squad movie, and then also the other movie in which the Harley Quinn character makes an appearance. Birds of Prey, correct? So I've got something to say on that.
Okay, yeah, so we can get kind of those bits in there too.
Yeah, and then I also watched the new. I've been rewatching Marvel movies, going back. I don't know, I just felt like reviewing some of the classics. It sort of felt like we're coming. Well, I don't know, maybe we're going back into another pandemic or a surge or whatever, shutting down again. But I'm getting excited about seeing movies in a movie theater again, and like especially continuing the Marvel saga or whatever after watching the summer TV series here. So I went back and started watching some of the old Avengers movies and some of the ones that I liked more.
So you're caught up, right? On the television stuff. You've seen all the series so far, other than MODOK, maybe that's on Hulu or whatever.
Yeah, I just learned about that show. Seems interesting. It's Patton Oswalt, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Have either of you seen it?
No, I haven't.
Nope.
All I did was
odd that it's not on Disney Plus. Like they're doing that thing again now.
Right.
Put it on because it's a little more mature, I guess. I don't know.
Is it a character that's owned by Marvel, like the Disney Marvel, or is it one of those Spider-Man type situations where it's like a Marvel character owned by another?
I think they own it now. I think it's theirs.
Is it officially? Do you know anything about it? Is it like officially part of the Marvel canon?
I don't think so. It's completely like a comic relief sort of silly iteration of this villain. Almost like a What If. Like it could be in the What If show, but if it was in a completely comedic sense.
That's what I had read, was that there was some disappointment that they had misused the character that they could have.
I mean, it's definitely designed to be a comedy when the character wouldn't be originally designed for that. So it's like a spoof kind of thing.
I might watch it. Sounds interesting. I saw a trailer for it. Looked kind of funny. So.
Well, what Marvel movies did you get through this week then? Are there ones that you like, I'm gonna pass, I'm not gonna go back and watch that? Or
I was just gonna say, are you watching like from the original, like, oh, I gotta go all the way back to Iron Man and go in sequence, or is this just like skipping around? I'm watching what I want.
Yeah, I was definitely skipping. Well, I wouldn't say skipping around. I was watching the ones I liked or remembered liking the most in chronological order, canon chronological order. So, or in release order, or whatever. So I think the furthest back I went was the Winter Soldier, I think.
Okay.
I didn't watch any of the original origin story movies, because I sort of felt like they didn't really contribute a lot to what ended up being the larger end game plot.
That seems more like you'd be sticking to the Avengers films then, almost, and maybe a couple Captain America ones, like you say.
Yeah. It was kind of interesting rewatch, not to stay on this too long, but rewatching the second and third Captain America movies felt almost, you know, partial Avenger movies, just because a lot of
Yeah.
characters make cameos in them, and then
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of side stories that don't involve Captain America. So it's it's like a Avengers movie, but especially Civil War, it felt like
Yeah.
I
Like
don't even know.
Avengers, like 1.5 or like 2.5. You know what I mean? Like a halfway movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yep. It should have just been, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so
Um,
yeah, those are the ones I watched. I also watched Thor Ragnarok. That's like my favorite of all of them. So
Yeah. That's one of my favorites too.
that's the second time I've watched it. I saw it in the theater, and then I didn't watch it again until like 2 days ago, and I kind of forgot how funny it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's really well done, and it doesn't like. Well, I'll touch on this a little bit with regards to the Suicide Squad, but even adding like totally changing the tone of what Thor had been to that point in the Marvel universe, like adding all that humor to that character and that his world, like
Mm-hmm.
made him so much better a character, I felt.
Yes.
But so I don't know.
Yeah.
So there's yeah, we'll talk about it later. Yeah, I got kind of the comedy at the expense of sort of like realism, grittiness that I feel like some of those early hero movies were going for, on the coattails of the Christopher Nolan Batman movies,
Mm-hmm.
when everything that was
Sure.
coming out was dark and real and overly
Gritty.
depressing.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. I'd be interested. It would be a good episode to do if we all watch through a lot of them together and to see if we come up with the same opinions as we generally formed originally. Because I've definitely changed my tune on different movies throughout the years
Mm-hmm.
from first viewing to the second. Um, yeah, if I would come down on the same page as before. So we
Yeah.
should talk about that
Yeah.
sometime, or like at least keep us updated. And
I
if
was
you're like,
catching.
no, I
Yeah.
really changed my mind on that one.
I don't think there's really anything I changed my mind on, but I did. I think rewatching some of them in pretty quick succession sort of like gave me a greater appreciation for what they sort of built, and going back to the Winter Soldier, which I think was like one of the first Marvel movies in like what they were then calling like these different phases. I think that was like the first moment when they're like, all right, this is a whole new phase of this thing that we're building, and like you you definitely saw where I was picking up little um story nuggets, that they were sort of dropping, and clearly they knew where they were going with it at that point, or at least
Sure.
Right.
well enough that they could put story elements in that, and use and reference back to even like Black Widow today or the Endgame movie or whatever. So I thought that was kind of
Mhm.
cool, but I didn't catch it the first time because nobody knew where it was going. So like I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to Andrew's week in a second. But before we do, you brought it up. I had to say it. Andrew and I talked last week about Black Widow. Did you get to see that one?
Yes, I
And
liked it.
spoiler free. What? Yeah. Okay.
I mean, yeah, without any spoilers, I liked it. I not my not by far my favorite, but I thought it was entertaining. I stayed engaged the whole time, and like, you know, was
Yeah.
excited to see how it
Okay.
ended. I don't know. I never felt it. Never felt nothing ever felt forced, and I think that's sometimes what I sort of feel with some hero movies now, even some of the older ones, going back and watching them, is
Mm-hmm.
like, ooh, like some of the things they say are sort of cringy almost.
Hmm.
There was maybe a couple moments of Black, but I don't know. For the most part, I did really like it.
We were getting. I mean, in those early Marvel days, we were sort of. I suppose taken aback. Like we kind of got to a new level of what a superhero movie could be in a way. I
Mhm.
mean, obviously Nolan's Batman films and some of the Batman films of the past were their own thing and some of that, but there was a different level, I think, of the early Marvel films that we probably gave it some graces, in
Yeah.
ways that we maybe wouldn't now as the film adaptations or genre has advanced.
Definitely.
So, I'll take a moment to thank Fragilities for the follow. Thank you very much. And if anyone's watching or listening and has not heard our talk about Black Widow, you should go back to last week's episode and give that a listen for the full breakdown there. Otherwise, Andrea, how was your week? Have all kinds of cool
Uh,
stuff happen?
Not too much. I'm still in the throes of academia and working on my conference paper, so that's still taking a bunch of my time. But obviously, I snuck in a few things. Watched some more Olympics and some closing ceremonies. So I just feel like you always got to catch that and see what each country, kind of has to offer as their kind of like wrap up of the Olympic Games. Um, and I thought it was really fun. It was like upbeat and colorful and um nothing like too like crazy outlandish or fancy, but just like very very representative of Japan and like the
Okay.
the cultural element of the country. Weird to see an empty stadium though. Like weird to see like, you know, thousands upon thousands of performers and like all the athletes. Then there's like nobody there. It was like
Mhm.
peeking into the weirdest like block party ever or something. It's just very strange. But fun to watch. And then of course I watched The Suicide Squad, not Suicide Squad. Gonna have to remember to not get tripped up by that in our discussion. But watched that for this week, and then I managed to sneak in a little reading. I'm reading Ruin and Rising right now, which is the third book in the Shadow and Bone trilogy. So
Oh,
I'm
okay.
I'm excited about that because I think it's been like a solid like kind of young adult series. So yeah, I'm excited to wrap that up and see where that goes. And
I was
then,
just like, oh, go ahead.
oh, what? No, 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 you go. You go.
Well, it was so just with Shadow and Bone, I
Hmm.
was changing my Netflix profile icon, or I was going to, and I was looking through all the different ones, and they had Shadow and Bone ones in there. I'm like, oh, I just was reminded of this show and that I enjoyed it quite a bit. So yeah, I'm looking forward to whenever that picks up again.
Yeah, yeah. Season two. I mean, I think they like renewed it pretty much as season one was airing. They're already like, yeah, this is gonna be a hit. We're gonna do it. They announced some like new characters and stuff for season two, so that I'm glad that that's definitely happening because I thought that was an excellent show.
Yeah.
Um,
Thick
the other,
King agrees. He's in the chat. Shadow
oh
and Bone
hey,
Netflix. Thumbs up.
hey
Nice.
again. Yeah, yeah, good show, good book series. Would recommend both. Um, yeah, the other thing I was going to say is I completely forgot I snuck in a Twins game into my week. So I was at that last night. That was very fun. Nice to
Did
like.
they win?
They did. They did. I did not have high hopes because the game that they played before with the White Sox, they lost like 10-0. So I was like, oh,
Oh,
well, I guess I'm just like going for the atmosphere and like,
yeah.
going to do something. And then they like hit a home run and they were on top, and then the White Sox hit some home runs and they were, I was like, oh, well, that was fun while it lasted. But then the Twins like snuck in another couple homers and managed to hang on until the end to win it by one run. So it ended up being pretty exciting.
Cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Andrea, what Olympic event do you like to watch?
Volleyball.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Volleyball. Although I watched water polo for the first time and was extremely fascinated by water polo. I do not understand like anything that's happening in water polo. But it
They're
was
treading
Neither.
water the whole time.
they're insane athletes. Like
It's
I can't
crazy.
I can't imagine. Like they're so quick. It's like the speed of it is like soccer in water. And it's just amazing how much they have to like back and forth they have to do. It's
They
like this
make it
weird.
look so easy.
They do. They're just like back and forth in the
Mhm.
pool, whereas I'd be like drowning in the middle. Like, can I just like stay here? Like, and I'll just like throw a hand up or something. I don't know.
You make a great goalie.
I would. I really would.
Mhm.
I was a goalie in soccer, actually. So,
Oh.
Did you watch some Olympics then too, Shane?
I mostly watched like recaps and stuff. I didn't actually watch any of the live bits.
Mhm.
Okay.
I don't like being marketed towards.
Yeah, sure.
No, I did watch a little bit. I was excited for some of the new events this year,
Hmm.
and especially the rock climbing being
Yeah, that
added.
was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of an
Yep.
interesting thing that they did. If you're at all in the know of, rock climbing, they took 3 different kind of approaches to rock climbing and fused them into one event. So if you were performing as an Olympian this year, you had to do all 3 types of climbing, which,
Uh,
if you're a climber, is not something that is done very easily because
mhm,
they're they're very different in terms
mhm.
of like what they physically require of somebody. So, and then I think they took like the average performance scores between the 3 events, and then chose a chose their medalists from that. So
Sure. Okay.
Nice. Well, I basically forgot about the Olympics this week. I watched the women's volleyball, and then
oh,
when I
of
was
course you
done,
did, John.
I watch any volleyball that's on. Like it's my favorite sport to watch and to play.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like it's just my favorite. So, but I thought that it was like about done then. I didn't really realize it was another week, and then midway through the week, I'm like, oh, there's still more
Right.
Olympics, and I just didn't turn it back on, I guess. So, yeah,
It's a
that
long
was
run.
kind of
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
Well, and I forget that they air so many of like when you think about like track and field, they do like the qualifying rounds and like all the, like all, it's like the heats basically instead of just the
Mm.
final. So you feel like, didn't I already see that? Like, didn't the women already run like the 400 whatever? And they're like, nope, that was just like all the qualifying stuff. So
yeah. I was just reading why they show all that, and they decide which events they air on television based on like how many people they can get to tune in, and like that is the largest percentage of deciding like you know which events they keep from year to year and all this other stuff, and
sure.
even like rate them, grade them, and the athletics. I think it's athletics, swimming, and gymnastics are like the 3 that will always pretty much always be in the Summer Olympics because they bring in the biggest viewership. And so I
Sure.
think for that reason, if you just showed like the final race, like the final 100-meter race is over in less than 10 seconds. So,
Right.
you know, can't get a lot of viewership for very long. Not too many commercial breaks when you're just, getting
Right.
viewers for that amount of time.
It's like a total of like 50 seconds and you're like,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
That was that.
Yeah.
I think we should go back to basics. We go back to Athens. Everyone must compete naked. And we're going to get rid of all the frivolous other events. It's just going to be like throwing things far and like running
Running
fast. And like,
far.
that's where it's going to, yeah, that's what it's going to be.
I did
Wrestling.
I did learn of the Olympic pentathlon, which is like an activity that they are. I guess there's been a lot of challenges to whether or not to keep it, but the if you're not familiar, pentathlon means there are 5 events, right?
Right.
So, and the 5 events are basically centered around like military performance, I guess, because
Mm.
the first, and you take your score through, the highest combination score of the 5 events, but the first one is fencing. The second one is horse dancing or some sort of equestrian control.
Okay.
And then, gosh, now I'm forgetting. It's like running. There's one that's running with a pistol and then like stopping and shooting along the way.
Okay.
Okay. I
Okay.
was
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
say there's
So,
gotta be some
Like
sort
with
running
of
the
and
like
shooting.
skiing,
target.
like with the skiing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, right. And the fifth one, what is the fifth one? I want to say swimming or something like that, but I don't think it is swimming. I don't,
Huh.
maybe Alan can chime in with that. Anyways, I thought it
Hmm.
was really interesting. So I'm like, yeah, running and shooting plus horse dancing. It's an interesting combination.
Yeah.
It's like old
Yeah.
school, like cavalry
Yeah,
type military.
yeah,
Yep. Just
yeah,
running from dogs. They're just like chasing you down.
yeah. Donning armor or something like that. That must be the fifth event.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Alan says fencing, swimming, riding, shooting, and running.
Okay,
Yeah,
see,
I
we're
was
on
wrong.
track
Swimming
with
is in there.
swimming. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I did do one water activities. Speaking of swimming, I have fished a little this week. A little
Nice.
more fishing.
What did you fish for?
Largemouth bass.
Did you catch anything?
Yeah, we caught some. It was a little slow. We were gonna keep a couple, but if you don't, it's like a pain. They're a pain to clean. So if you're not gonna have a few of them, it's like, do we bother? So
Yeah.
let
I
them
gotta
all
ask.
go.
I gotta ask you a question, John. So I'm 34 years old. I'm just now entering the world of fishing,
Okay,
and
let's go.
yeah, exactly. And so I went fishing a couple weekends ago for bass, and I set my rig up. I don't know what the technical term is, but I set my
Sure.
pole up, my line up, whatever. And it was all information based on information I had found on the internet, and
Oh my gosh, Shane.
it didn't work out so well. So what did you do? Like, how do you fish for bass? Do you want to talk about bass fishing?
I was gonna say, like,
So-
I mean, I feel like the first question would be like, what kind of lure did you use and where did you go?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's good questions.
Is it like a secret?
No, I'm
No,
like
yeah.
genuinely curious. Like,
Oh, me.
Yeah, like,
You want to know
what-
me? I thought you
Yeah.
were asking John. No, but yeah. I
No,
used
I mean, I know
yeah.
very little about bass fishing, so I was just curious
I-
as to like what you tried.
So I used I just used a hook and a night crawler, and I bought special hooks that I found were appropriate for bass fishing, which were I don't know how to say it. It's like 4/0. What is it? Something like that. Extra
Okay.
wide gap fishing hooks, and used what the internet calls the Texas rig in terms of hooking your worms. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I had like a quarter ounce, bullet weight on my line, and that was pretty much it. And I was just going to cast and reel, and then hopefully catch something.
Mhm.
So if you're putting on some sort of worm to like jig, so worm and weights and stuff like that, you usually want to be doing that in like if it's weedy. So maybe you have a whole bunch of lily pads in front of you or some sort of good weed cover that you can throw in, and then you reel it in slow. You sort of jig it up, let it drop, and then reel it a little bit, jig it
Mhm.
up, let it drop, and then if they bite, you have to give them time to like consume that worm. So yeah, like
Mhm.
count to 3 or something like that, and then set the hook hard.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, usually if you were fishing from a dock or something,
No, we had a canoe.
canoe, okay. So yeah, I mean, what we normally do is most of the time, it depends on the lake and stuff, we're using spinner baits. So there's no live bait or anything like that involved.
Mhm.
It's just a spinner, and then that's flat. It's shiny, so then you can cast it out, reel and cast it out, and that's good to go along the edge of weeds or try to kind of get it near docks or under docks in some places.
Near trees that
and
might be in
just
the water.
Yep, and keep doing that, and that's what we do a lot, and then we'll kind of go along the shore or wherever we're working. And then if things aren't working, we might switch it up. So we have frogs that we'll cast on top of lily pads, fishing, so our lake trip they don't get stuck. They don't get caught in the weeds and they
Mhm.
float. And then if you want to get in deep somewhere in the weeds, then you can do the little jig with a worm. And we usually use fake worms that you can reuse a bunch, they smell good for them and stuff or whatever. I don't know. So yeah. Well, I'm sorry you didn't have any good luck. But,
It's embarrassing to admit it, but like after maybe 8 or 10 casts, I lost my hook because I don't think I tied the line. It's all a
Shane,
learning experience.
I would have driven out there. Okay, I just I had to help you here. All right, go fish and we'll make this work. I have plenty of lures. I can give you some.
John's
All right,
fish
well,
rescue.
anytime you want to go fishing, let's go fishing.
Yep, we'll go fishing. Okay, fishing talk. Here we are. Thick King.
It's the new theme of the show.
Let us know. Yeah. Yeah.
We're
I
just proving
see.
we're not
I
one-dimensional. I mean, we can talk about more than pop culture things.
Yeah.
We can
That's
talk about
right.
fishing.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I also watched on Alan's suggestion Kingdom.
Mhm.
I'm almost done with
Oh
season
yeah.
1. It's it's really good. It's basically it is a zombie show, but it feels different enough, and it's interesting how it's a little different given it's zombies, but dealing with like Korean royalty.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I've been enjoying it a lot. There's another season when I'm done with this one and a movie. So it's on Netflix. Um, because we were talking before, like what I wanted to watch some K dramas or something like that. And I think Alan was doing everything he could to suggest I watch something Korean that's not a Korean drama. So he didn't have to hear me talk about it. So, but yeah, we'll get to the Korean drama too. That'll happen too. So I'm sorry, Alan. And then I did watch the Mortal Kombat movie too, the newer Mortal Kombat movie.
Oh, how's that?
It was good. I mean, it's not particularly original, but like it does well to pay, make it be an homage to the game. There's familiar lines and the characters, work well. It was good. Liked it. I recommend it. So yeah.
I'm with you on that.
You seen it?
Yeah, I was entertained by it.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Lots of the familiar characters. And that's really why you watch Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. The action was good. It wasn't like corny or cheesy, really. It was the right balance of everything. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Didn't shy away from
Uh,
the bloody violence.
no, right. You got to have the fatalities, right?
Mhm.
Yes, Thick King agrees. Tons of fan service and pleasantly violent. Exactly. So, and then because I had to pretend that I'm younger than I am, I guess I watched the Fortnite concert. Um,
Oh.
it was Ariana Grande was doing a thing. They put her like um likeness in the game that you can like be, you use as your avatar and stuff like that, 2 different versions or whatever. And then they had a show, and it's really one of those things that I think is pretty awesome. They've done it with a number of artists now. They even
Mhm.
had, I think BTS on there before, and they're of varying degrees. Like some of them, you just go into this like kind of party mode that you can hang out with people, and then there's sort of a stage and a concert. And other ones are real, like a real trip. They really bring you through. They change the environments all around you. They've done it for
Okay.
Star Wars events. They've done it for, a number of different artists as well. And they make it like, interactive concert that I think they've just done it the best. Yeah, Thick King says Travis Scott. Yeah, I think he did
Yeah.
the one too. And that was one of the earlier ones that kind of blew people's minds a bit. It's like, oh, this is a really cool shared event thing, that's yeah, I think it's cool. So yes. Andrea, please
Yes.
save us from boring drinks, because I see Shane has his LaCroix,
Uh-huh.
exciting stuff. I have, because I already had 2 beers at the restaurant. I'm just drinking a Red Bull.
Okay.
So
Trying to
Andrea,
keep
help
yourself
us.
awake.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I am celebrating one of the days that is
Nice.
occurring this week. I'm not celebrating either of the two most unusual. Um, so we had on Monday the 9th, there were 2 drink celebratory days. Um, World Baijiu Day and then Scottish Gin Day. And that's what I'm celebrating. So I've got a gin and
Really?
ginger, yep, with Hendrix
Scottish gin?
gin.
Okay.
Hendrix. Yep, that's my
Okay.
favorite gin. At least
Okay.
so far that I've tried. I know like gin isn't for everybody. It's it can be anywhere on the spectrum of, pleasantly junipery to like pine sol, in a bottle, but I quite like Hendrix. So, that's what I've got to drink today.
Very nice.
All right.
Have either of you had Baiju?
I've not. No.
I want
But
it.
okay,
You
I was
want
gonna say
you
I
want
assume
it.
John has, or
Yeah, no, I don't think I have.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the Chinese version basically of shochu or shoju.
Mhm.
Um,
Well,
but
it's a little more turpentine than that.
Oh, so you've
sure,
had it.
yeah.
Yeah. They my father-in-law has taken a number of trips to China, and whenever we visit him, he has this bottle of Baiju that he brought back from China, and I refuse to drink any more of it. It's like
Well, I
drinking
mean,
Alan's
fire.
comment is it's harsh.
It's like drinking
to-
fire. So
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Is
It's
there
like
any
well,
sort of
it's
like
like anything.
flavor to it, or is it just like pouring
Yes.
gasoline down your throat?
Yes to both. It's gasoline
Okay.
flavored.
Well, to my understanding, it's like any liquor. There's a wide variety. It's even like gin. You talk about gin, Bombay Sapphire is very different from Hendrix,
Sure.
and
Right.
like they're very, very different. And sake varies widely. This is just like a type of Chinese liquor that can be made from rice or wheat or any number
Mhm.
of different grains. So
I feel like at
I-
a certain point with like very strong alcohols, when you get to a certain alcohol concentration,
Mhm.
does it really like where you get the like what grain you source the concentrated distilled alcohol from? Does it really make the alcohol taste different if like 95% of the liquid you're drinking is
Mm.
just alcohol?
It's certainly not to my palate. Like
Right.
I can't, or if someone can, I can't.
Well, I'd be interested to know, like, because there are definitely like different alcohols where like it's a strong like sense of alcohol, but it tastes different than other things. Like the most alcohol-y intense thing I've ever had is Jepson's Malort. And that is like intense alcohol like in your face, but it also tastes like tar and pine needles and like rubber bands some, you know what I
Is
mean?
that the
Like
thing you made us drink? Is that the thing
yes,
that was
at the
at
Super
like
Bowl that we took
yes?
shots at. It's like terrible.
Mhm.
There's like a
pretty
taste that's
bad.
almost indescribable, but like reminds you of something specific. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Like it's not just like I'm drinking alcohol. It's like I'm drinking alcohol that tastes like rubber bands, you know? So I don't know. I just find that fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Oh.
always surprised at the people that like really do like develop such a palate and they can just know and they just can
Right.
place all the whiskeys and everything.
Right. Yeah, I'm not
Um,
that good.
yeah. Um, the Thick King mentioned the Chicago handshake, and that is unfamiliar to me, so I was looking that up quickly. Slang for a special drink involving a shot of Jepson's Malort paired with an old school Midwestern beer, most
Okay.
typically old style beer.
Oh boy.
Wow, see, there you go.
I'd be game, but oh man.
Does the
It's
Jepson
been a while since I've had Malort, and it is oof. It is
the
not something
question
you
is, does
forget.
the Malort ruin the beer or does the beer save the Malort?
That's a good question. I don't know what could ever save Malort. It is so much. It is a
I love
lot.
the name.
Malort, yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Henry, if you've got this sitting at your house, gathering dust, and you also plan on going to the Halloween party, please bring it with you because I assume that maybe the next time I see you, I'd like to try it.
Done and done.
All right, great.
Wow. Shane, you're just gonna fall on the floor after one shot after all this time.
It'll be
It's
the
a
only
lot.
thing I drink. It'll be the only thing
Yeah.
I've had to drink in like 2 years. So.
Dude, it won't even be the alcohol that like drops you. It'll just be like the taste where you're like, what is this? Like, I
Yeah.
can't. I
Wow.
can't.
The Thick King is triggered. He's sitting there fuming right now. Your disrespect for Malort, a Chicago treasure, he
I didn't
says.
say I didn't like it. It's just like it's so much. It's like
I mean, if we had
It
to
leaves-
like,
it
make
leaves
a
an imprint
judgment
on
off of
you.
your claims here, though,
Well,
Okay,
yeah, I mean,
okay.
I would approach it with caution. I mean, I wouldn't just like, like my mom who's, drinking like wine coolers and like Riesling, I wouldn't be like, "Here, mom, I recommend this." Like you can't
Right.
just like, give it to a newbie. Like you have to know what you're getting into with Malort.
Okay.
You never know, though.
So
You give it to somebody who's never had it before, never had anything like it before. Maybe they just love that rubber band flavor. You know,
that's what you can tell them afterwards when they're
I
spitting it
think
up.
people are
You
crazy
never know
for
what could
eating black
happen.
licorice. So I mean,
That's true. That's true.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yep.
teach their own. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's almost like a point of pride to do it, like just because it's just like so much that I weirdly like love it when we're all just like, oh my God, we should do this. Like have a shot of Malort. And it's like, oh man, everybody get ready, get prepared. I don't know what
I
I'm gonna taste this time.
Thick King says it's the best tasting alcohol seasoned with sweaty balls you'll ever
Mm,
have.
hmm Yep, that's another flavor profile that
so
I missed in my initial analysis.
not necessary to add salt, is what you're saying.
Yeah, no, it's not like
Yeah.
a tequila shot.
No,
It's
no.
already built in there.
Paired with the the
Um
balls flavor.
Mhm.
I didn't look this up, so maybe you can tell me what are uh Albarino days.
So it's a white wine that comes from one of the Spanish coasts. It's like a particular grape that
Okay,
makes this particular white wine.
nice.
Hmm
So wow, they get days, not
They
a
get
day.
days, many
The 7th through
days.
the 11th.
Yes,
Huh.
indeed. I'm not sure why I
Okay.
didn't go that deep in looking it up, but yeah. So yeah, so that's one
Well,
of the tamer, drink holidays as well. Just some
yeah.
Spanish white wine.
Not a lot happens in Spain those 4 days.
Maybe.
That's okay. Couldn't
Maybe.
we all use that? Just like 4
Yeah.
days of not a lot happening.
Mhm.
We could use 4 days here of like rye then, huh? Or bourbon.
Yeah.
Bourbon. That's the American
Very
thing, I
classic
feel like.
American.
Yeah. So all right. We have a few news stories before we get on to the Suicide Squad. Um, let's see. So I'm gonna combine a couple of these because they're gaming stories.
Mhm.
And we had two Shane, these are perfect for you. We had two indie game events. Um, one day after the next. So we
Okay.
had ID at
Mhm.
Xbox, which seemed like an all-day affair. So if you had the time for that. And then there was a Nintendo Indie World showcase today.
Mhm.
And I did watch all of the Nintendo one.
Mhm.
I saw some of the Xbox One and a few other highlights from it and stuff. Did either of you get to catch these events or any pieces of them?
Yeah,
No.
I caught Nintendo. I did not Xbox. Xbox was just going to be a little bit too much of my time.
Mhm. I mean, I kind of appreciate what Xbox is trying to do. They like get Twitch hosts on there to talk, show off some stuff, be excited, and interview some people. Like I kind of get that, but they're throwing people in this that are not used to this kind of gig, I guess it
Yeah.
seems. And it really draws out the format. It's because when you look at it like the Nintendo event, it seems so much more tightly run because it
Mhm.
literally is an announcer saying, here's this thing, you show a little bit of something, and then you get a little word from the dev, and then you move on.
Mhm.
So I hope Xbox can maintain their like fun community element they're trying to do here, but pick up the pace a little bit more,
Yeah.
especially when you're the breakup in between everything is like you're not largely showing new games. It's a lot of just new trailers for the same games we know are coming already.
Mhm.
I think Nintendo event suffered from that some too, but yeah.
But at least it's more
Did you have any?
manageable. You
Yes,
know what I mean?
yeah.
Like
It's
it's
way
just more
shorter. It's like 20
digestible.
minutes.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I can do that. Like even if it's not
Yep.
like the most exciting content, like I could still watch it and be like, "Oh, right, okay. Now I remember this
Mhm.
is coming out."
Was there anything in the Nintendo event then that stood out to you?
Not really. I kind of the one game that I thought was like really interesting and different was Loop Hero, where
Okay.
like you don't play as the hero, you get to like create the game around them and like create the obstacles that they face and things like that. I thought that was kind of fun. Like in a weird way, like thinking like a developer. You know what I mean? Like you're not just like playing the game. It's like, okay, so if I were like designing, you know, all the trials and obstacles for a hero game, like what would I do? I don't know. Thought it was
I
fun.
think it's yeah. It.
I mean, it's
Correct
a
me if
little
I'm
bit
wrong.
more
Maybe
than
you
that,
know.
but
Yeah, but I think it's more like you get to um add the things that the hero uses to deal with the threats that come through. Maybe
you,
I'm wrong. Shane, have you? Because like you like get shields and different weapons and like
yeah,
things that you place and try to put them in the right
Hmm.
order. So as they're going by whatever threat, they use the proper item. Or I haven't played it yet, and I understand that if you do, you can. It's really fun.
Hmm.
Um,
yeah,
yeah.
No, I haven't. I've seen it. I haven't played it yet, but I've heard good
Okay.
things. So.
Yeah.
yeah. It
Yep.
looked fun. Just looked like a little bit different than what like how a normal game runs. So just was
Yep.
interested in that.
Mhm.
I'm interested in Eastward. So
Oh,
the
sure.
developers behind Stardew Valley, not only was it announced at the Xbox event, I believe that Stardew Valley is coming to Game Pass.
Hmm.
So if you haven't played that yet, that's available there soon. And then they're doing this other game that takes place on a ship that I think is coming to PC. And now there's this game, Eastward. And their thing is sort of these kind of community man. I don't know if I say that. Your adventure in usually a town and kind of build it out, and like you have your homestead and you make relationships with other
Hmm.
people, and like it was kind of the seen as the usurper of Harvest Moon, when Stardew Valley came out. And yeah, it seems like they must be expanding, and they're so yeah, I'm excited for whatever they release. And this is a timed Switch exclusive, this Eastward. Um and then Bomb Rush Cyberpunk. I was a fan of Jet Set Radio Future
Sure.
and the vibe of Jet Grind Radio and some of that, like on the Dreamcast. And this is clearly that. They never went and made more of them, so this is clearly that
Hmm.
again. But um,
Visually, that
what?
looked really fun.
Sure, yeah, yep. The Thick King says, "Do I need to get a Switch?" I mean, I think everybody needs to get uh, a Switch if you like games, but that's me. Um, yeah. Axiom Verge 2, I think, is out today. That was shown off there more.
Hmm.
So, or at least the reviews are coming out, I know, and stuff now. So, um, Garden Story looks cute.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was
Speaking of
okay with the
cute,
event. I thought the Nintendo one was pretty good.
yeah, it was. It was. I mean, it was like you said. It was well paced, like easy to follow, easy to watch, like good format. But speaking of cute, I thought like Toem was a game that would be totally up your alley, John, if it was like the setting was different. Because it's literally
Mm,
like a game of taking
which?
pictures. It was like the Swedish
Oh,
one.
yes, yes, yes,
I
yes.
feel like if it was a different setting, that would totally be you like taking pictures, and like that's like part of the objective of the game is
Pokemon
to like,
Snap.
yeah, to like get this like great composed picture. And like that's part
Mm,
of like what you do and you like show it off to like other people and in the game. But I
sure.
was like, yeah, I don't feel like the setting is like John's cup of tea.
I do feel like modern games, particularly like AAA games, are failing if in a way. Like I will dock them if they don't have a proper photo mode.
Right.
Because like the pictures I've taken in Cyberpunk 2077 and in Control, I just I just love doing. Even
Hmm.
Horizon Zero Dawn, I spent way too much time
Setting up.
taking pictures. Yeah, in
Hmm.
those games, and other people take way longer than I do. Like some of the
Right.
the the art that people create in these photo modes is pretty nuts. But like I remember in Resident Evil Village now, then that was
Mhm.
kind of a complaint, the really basic photo mode.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a bummer.
You
Yeah.
couldn't reveal Ethan's face though, Jen. Just
Yeah, I guess, right? They could just like you could have chose what like silly emoji to put in place of his face.
Right.
Like you could unlock them. You spend your money that you get in the game to unlock different emojis to put over his face.
yeah.
Yeah, it's $1 million idea.
Mhm.
The Thick King since Horizon Zero Dawn is top 10 for me
Yeah.
ever, and I had to mention that because I agree. It's I just I don't know what it is with that world I connected with
Wait,
so much.
you like that game?
You didn't know? I've not talked about it.
You've never mentioned it.
Well, let me tell you. Yeah, no, I think that I mean it's in my top 5. I've often
Yeah.
said that or Breath of the Wild are my favorite game. I don't know, but it's tough. So more people need to play it. More people I know need to play it. I should say it that way. So
Well, when I am done with this conference paper, I am like looking to kick back and like play a game and have fun again. So maybe that's what I'll have to start.
well, you're gonna need a PlayStation. Well, you got that PC in front of you. That's right. It's on
That's
PC
right.
now. Okay. All right. So yeah, that's basically the gaming events summed up. There was more there, but
Alan just chatted
Alan,
Borderlands. I do have to get back
yeah.
to knifing some skags.
No, just move on. Just I'm gonna tell you, move on. You say you want to have fun in the game, okay? Stop knifing things and like something else. I mean, I feel like going back to Borderlands 1 is not the right move. Not the right move.
It's gonna take me like till 2022 to finish Borderlands with my
Mhm,
knifing skills. They are on point, but
mhm.
does take a while.
Yeah, you can go to, Borderlands, like Alice's Borderlands 3. You could do Borderlands 3 and then break your habit of like, I need to play all
In
the
order,
previous
yeah.
entries. Yeah.
Like I should have done with Assassin's Creed. I'm still like trying to like let go of the fact that I don't have to start in the beginning.
Yeah.
Where I like start a new Assassin's Creed and I feel dirty because I haven't played all of them.
It's, it's this because video games is, and this is a question. Okay. Here's a discussion
Oh boy.
potentially.
Oh boy.
So,
What did I start? Sorry, y'all.
movies and music, they had their time. Movies when they start, okay, they're black and white and silent. They're short, that kind of thing. Camera angles are not, it's like it's very limited, and the language of film begins to develop over the years, and the French do a lot of work in like figuring out the language of cinematography, and we get sound and we get color and things advance. And so then going back to watch all the way to the earliest stages of film, that's fine, that's great, we can learn something and you can enjoy it. But there's like you hit a point where film developed,
Okay.
pun. And it's video games, I don't know if it's gotten there, because you can go back to the beginning of video games and maybe you can enjoy it, but it's progressed so much
Mm,
with at least certain types of games. It's some games are ruined. They're basically non-playable anymore with how old they are.
okay.
Um, are we going to get to that point in video games? Are we there yet? We're now moving forward for the foresee, in 30 years, will people play The Last of Us
Mm,
and unchanged and love it? Or will it be missing so much that gaming has yet to develop into?
mm. That God, that's a tough question. I mean, it's so hard to know because technology has developed so rapidly. You know what I mean? Like over the past, how many decades, like it just feels like leaps and bounds from what it did to what it can do now. hard to know if we're gonna like keep on that like steep trajectory of like technology advancing so far in such little time, or if it's gonna be like we've hit a peak. Do you know what I mean? Like, hard for me to answer that question without knowing, I think, like how technology might change.
Hmm.
I feel like they're gonna. I mean, I feel like we're already kind of seeing what video games are becoming in terms of like. I think I've mentioned this to some in some form before, but the experiential aspect of playing a game, kind of like watching a movie and something that's really emotionally powerful. You find so moving that it'll bring you to tears, or it'll make you laugh, or it'll make you feel something.
Hmm.
And I think like the best video games in my regard have been ones that have, like great movies, made me feel something. And I feel like that becomes I feel like that's the goal with pretty much any popular media, generally
Hmm.
speaking. And like when we when there's the advent of virtual reality and how a person can almost live inside of a game, or experience a game inside of the game, I don't know, I feel like that's that's where it's going. And I feel like as that technology develops and becomes more accessible, we're going to see things shift in that direction more and more. Not that I feel like 2D platformers or anything like that will ever go away truly,
Hmm.
as long as there's a market for it. But and I think there always will be, because that's like the classic video game, right? Mario
Hmm.
Brothers, whatever. So at least as long as I'm alive. But yeah. Anyways, that's.
Yeah.
That's sort of like what I was thinking too, like how like experiential, how VR can we get with video games?
Mhm.
And then thinking like, would we remake things so that they turn into that? Or would it just be like at that point it's like, no, that's a lost cause. Like let's move on to like new stories, new games. You know what I mean? Like would we like remake Last of Us or, you know, I don't know, Breath of the Wild or Horizon Zero Dawn? Like would that have to turn into like we have to remake this in this new medium because they're so good? Or is it like no, like we just can't even translate. We have to do
I
something
think
new.
that depends. I think it depends. You just think about anything that was, built or created, any sort of art or whatever that was created for general consumption to like
Mhm.
appease the masses. You think of like William Shakespeare writing Romeo and Juliet based on Tristan and Isolde, right? Like
Mhm.
these stories keep happening, but just different names, and maybe slight variations, but it's essentially the same thematic theme story wise, right? So
Sure.
I don't know. And maybe Nintendo's found something that like they can't release another, you know, high, high fantasy or fantasy themed sword and shield type video game without including Link and Zelda. Otherwise,
Right.
they don't sell. But
Sure.
I would imagine like if there were a big enough span or gap in time where there wasn't a Zelda game, they could maybe create a new character that did something similar.
Sure.
I mean, it will be. We get that from the competition. We get Zelda likes. That from other companies. Um, so yeah, but I mean, I think it's to the question of will there be like, will we need to remake it? I think that has borne out to be absolutely true. We must remake
Mhm.
everything. But like sometimes it
We have no
feels
ideas
sometimes,
left.
but that's my point is sometimes the technology, a point in film got to the point where we reached a point in film where we got um films we can go back to see and still enjoy because the technological barrier was no longer there. Like enough of the technology had advanced and the language of film had advanced that we can go back, watch, and enjoy and understand that now. Whereas like they remade Resident Evil 2. If you go back now, a modern gamer that is not having a nostalgic connection and play Resident Evil
Right.
2 on the PlayStation 2, I think it was. You That's not an enjoyable experience.
Right. Right.
The nostalgia experience is it. So you needed that remake. You needed the modern version of that now. You can go back and watch, I don't know, pick an old movie, I guess, Clockwork Orange, or you go to Alien, or you go, however far back you want to go. You can go back to Gunsmoke television shows or whatever and enjoy these things. They don't need to be remade.
Yeah.
They still convey the emotion and the experience that they would have then. Whereas that's not true yet for games.
Sure.
That the medium is timeless, though, where it's at right now.
Yeah. Right. And does video, I don't think video games need to get to the point where it's indistinguishable from real life to be, timelessly enjoyed. I mean, there's special effects in older movies that are not, definitely not real to life and can still very much enjoy the film. But there are some that really detract. If you watch House on Haunted Hill or whatever, and you don't have any previous connection to it or nostalgia factor, and you see the things literally hanging by strings or something like that, it's not as effective as when you originally saw it and you were dealing with that technology.
Right.
So I don't know.
I think there's something to be said about this, the strength of the writing or the material that for example, a movie or a TV show or even a video game, if like, is there a story, number one, or what's the context of what you're experiencing, and like how well is that done and how gripping is that? I feel like at least in my experience, I'm willing to look past certain what I would see as shortcomings now. Like, I could watch an old silent film, and well, I don't know, maybe not a silent film, but anyways, you know what I mean? Like, I could go back far enough, older film, and watch something that I find gripping enough, and I'm okay with the fact that it's in black and white, or the sound isn't in surround, the acting isn't as it's it's a little over the top in terms of the acting, but it's not as nuanced as acting is today. But I look past those things because of the strength of the material, and I feel like sometimes, and I think you are right, with a video game that's a little more challenging because I use your example as Resident Evil. Like, I remember specifically going back after probably more than a decade or two of not having ever played GoldenEye 64.
Oh
right?
my God. That's
Going back
yeah.
and trying to play the original on the Nintendo 64. Forget about it. Like, I couldn't even figure out where I was in space to like know what to shoot. But that game didn't stand the test of time. That's why they had to redo that one. But whenever I hang out with some of my friends, like, we'll pop in Mario Kart 64, the actual cartridge, and like still love that game. Like, that one definitely is a classic that doesn't really need to be recreated, but they come out with new iterations of it. But I still love the original.
Yep.
I suppose that wasn't the original, though. They had a Super Nintendo.
Right. I saw it today. I wish I would have, I guess I would have, if I knew we were to talk about this, I would have wrote it down. But it was a question, like, if you could choose only one game to remake, what would it be? You could only choose one. And it was, I know on the list was Resident Evil 4, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, GoldenEye. I think there was one more. Let's see. Maybe I'm not sure where it is, but I chose I chose Knights of the Republic, actually, because I think it has the most to offer, and it's a game that is story heavy, and I think that's where, like, I watch Ashley play a lot of these RPGs often, and there's an element where the eyes are a little dead, the facial expressions are a little weak or whatever, where you're not selling me as much as a game from Naughty Dog would if it had that extra polish and extra time, and so that's a game that it's still great, but it would be better. It would be more enjoyed that way. And so something like Knights of the Republic, that is like you making a lot of decisions and a lot of cool stuff happening, I think could really be the one that would benefit from total remake.
Sure.
So,
but would they put that much effort into like,
well,
motion
yes,
capture,
this is the
facial
dream
capturing? Yeah.
Yes, this is the
when you
dream
well, just when you talk about like The Last of Us and the the acting in, right? Like it's like you're watching a movie, but that is the game. And so like if they didn't put that amount of time into perfecting what it looks like on the screen when you're playing it, that game is pretty much nothing. Like the gameplay's fun, absolutely, but it's not like it's revolutionary. Like it's not something you've done in other stealth whatever type video games.
Yeah.
So like without that, it doesn't really, I don't think it really holds up. But like a game like Knights of the Old Republic has so much more to it. It has so much more depth in terms of like what you can do, or at least for the time, when it came out.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, sorry for the sidetrack. But yeah, that's a bit of gaming news. And gaming tangential here. Idris Elba is going to be the voice of Knuckles in the next Sonic movie. So, Shane, did you watch the Sonic movie? The live action?
No, I haven't. I actually do want to watch it. I've heard it's not bad.
Same.
I was surprised. So, I kind of messed up this because I should have moved this other story around. So I'm just gonna like segues be damned because I want to talk about it. Prisoners of Ghostland. Just saw the trailer for it today. It's a Nicolas Cage movie, and I really want to see it. I think it looks nuts. I think Nicolas Cage is he's on the top of his game right now. Like he's
having a little
projects.
Renaissance right now.
Yes.
He's a la Keanu Reeves like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. But Keanu Reeves is still always I love Keanu Reeves, okay? Prefaced, I love Keanu Reeves, but he is more one note.
Yeah.
He is cool.
I'm just saying, like,
Keanu
I think he's
Reeves.
like Keanu Reeves, like 2 years ago was like peak Keanu revival of his career. Like everybody was like in love with Keanu Reeves again because he was doing like so many projects. And I feel like Nick Cage is like coming into that zone right now where he's just like doing a bunch of different things that are everybody's like, right, yeah, Nicolas Cage, like what you been doing, man? Like you're back. That's awesome. So
I mean, I wonder if Keanu Reeves, if he's peaked here now, because I wonder if it's like the bad press around Cyberpunk 2077. It's like that was going to be, oh my God, he's in this game. It's a predominant role. Like that was at the peak of his everything.
Right.
And then the game came out and
crashed
people bought it on last gen systems, and it was a pile of garbage there. And so, like when The Matrix 4 and John Wick 4 come out,
I know.
I want to know: is he still riding high, or is it like, oh, we've kind of had our Keanu fun now?
Right. Yeah, I'm not really like, I don't feel like people's minds will be changed by John Wick 4, like whatever way it goes. Like, I don't know. I feel like there's less risk involved that people will be like, I'm over Keanu Reeves. Whereas like Matrix is just one of those like core film trilogies of like our generation that it's like, if Matrix 4 is good, like, yeah, he's back, like solidify Keanu Reeves. And if it bombs, it's like, okay, well, that was fun. Like you had a run at it, Keanu, like get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Do we think, is there any information on John Wick 4? Will it be the final John Wick?
No, it's not going to be the final John Wick. There's already John Wick 5.
Oh, there already is. Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe I should
that's why I say like nobody's mind's going to be changed by John Wick 4. Like it's already still here.
Yeah.
So
I feel like I
Matrix
went
4 is
into
the
every
test.
John Wick movie expecting an ending, and then like being like, oh, there's going to be another one. Okay.
So, did we talk about this, Andrea, um, about Keanu Reeves or was I talking about this with someone else? I'm not sure. About Keanu Reeves and how it sounds blasphemous, but he's slowing down.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
we did talk about this. Yep.
You
Okay.
called me brave, John, and I will remember that forever.
Yep.
What's that?
You said it was. I don't know how you phrased it. I said
Oh,
like
so you're the one that brought it up. You're the one that
I
said it?
rewatched some of
Okay.
the fight scenes from I think John Wick 3,
Yep.
and I was like, he's moving slow. Like he's clearly not like there's these two very well trained martial artists that are kicking and punching and flipping and doing all this shit all around Keanu Reeves, and he's like a 60-year-old, a clearly 60-year-old man trying to keep up, and like even the camera isn't really able to hide.
Right.
Because they don't try with. I mean, that's sort of the deal with John Wick. They're
Right.
like trying to not hide what's happening with that.
Right.
So,
Which is
whereas
fine.
you could make Liam Neeson, you watch Liam Neeson in any Taken movie or whatever, holy shit,
Quick cut.
badass. Well,
Yeah.
it's because you don't see what's happening. You can
Yeah.
make
Right.
anyone look awesome that way.
It's a lot of quick frame
So-
shots. Yeah.
Yep. Great sound effects, punching sounds, and a lot of
Yeah.
add-ins there. But
Yep.
Which I'm not
Well,
gonna
I
say
mean-
like I'm not a fan of, like the first Taken movie. Like
Oh no! I
love
mean,
it.
look, all of Hollywood does it. That's what part of what makes John Wick a little different from a
Mhm.
lot of rest of Hollywood. It's like we're gonna have our lead person doing all this stuff, doing everything he can. We're gonna be more accurate on our like clearing rooms and firearm handling and like
Mhm.
tactics, and we're gonna have real martial artists and stuntmen doing everything, and we're gonna get to
Right.
see it. We're not doing the cheap tricks. We're gonna have fun with it. And so I think that's great,
that was, I feel like, the first movie I can remember that attempted to do a more accurate portrayal of like gunplay or hand-to-hand combat type things was the movie Collateral with Tom Cruise. Did you
Oh,
see that movie?
yeah.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
haven't
know-
thought about that in
I
a
know
while.
a lot of like gun aficionados use that movie as a reference point for accuracy and how gun handling would actually occur in like those type of settings, in like an urban setting or like a close quarters type setting.
Yep.
And that was well before I think the first John Wick.
It
At
was.
least several,
Yeah.
couple
Well,
of years.
Man, I believe, is the director there.
Mhm.
Great. Great movie. I mean, it was great to see Tom Cruise in a kind of a different role.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good for sure. Yeah, no, I agree. But then, yeah, in like John Wick, they still make like suppressors sound like little pea shooters. It's John Wick and the guy are like shooting at each other in a crowded like subway area, and they're like kind of hiding their guns or whatever. It's like pew, 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 and like you barely audible plinking sounds at each other shooting, and like everybody's around, no one notices because it's so quiet. So it's like they go for this realism and then they completely destroy it in other ways because Hollywood, So
Mhm.
someone talked about that with swords. Whoever started making the sound effects for unsheathing your sword, where
Mhm.
it has this metallic
Oh, yeah.
kind of thing, swords don't do that. Like sure, maybe some decorative ones that are kept in like steel scabbards or something like that. It's leather or wood.
Yep.
Draw any sword and you don't have that sound. But
Right.
now the movie industry is stuck because anytime
so
if
yeah.
you don't do that, you don't recognize audibly, you're not told storytelling wise audibly that someone has unsheathed their sword.
Right. Yeah, it's such like a recognition thing now. Like it's imprinted in our mind. Like it's like it's almost like Pavlovian. Like that's what we expect to hear when we see that. You know what I mean? Like it's imprinted
Yeah.
in our brains that that's like the accompanying sound.
Yep.
In kind of in that same vein, we were, I guess, watching these Marvel movies. Like how many
Mm.
times a person gets thrown through a plate glass, anything, and stands up, like
And they're fine.
no cuts, no blood. Like it is skewed everybody's like belief that you can get thrown through glass and survive, like most of the
That
time.
So that was one of my issues with Black Widow. It wasn't glass, but it was like Natasha's body in that movie was just like a ping pong ball. Like
Yeah.
she just like hit so many metal structures in different scenes. Like when she like fell down a building or like was being thrown around like the station and she was just like hitting like metal guardrails. And even though they had like made a joke about like, oh, I bet like Thor doesn't have to take ibuprofen after a battle, it was
Mhm.
still like she would get up and be like, cool, I'm gonna like run down the plankway now, or I'm gonna go drive a motorcycle. And I'm like, no, no, no.
Yeah, you
Like,
can't sit.
you can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like we can't be the only people that are getting tired of the endless amp up, you
Yeah.
know? Because I feel like, okay, Fast and Furious, they're totally embracing that idea. They're like, we're just going,
It's just like over
just
the
going
top
insane.
and
Yeah,
it's
we're
yeah,
going
right.
insane.
Like we're making fun of ourselves and
Right,
it's like fine
right.
now. We've jumped
But
the
like
shark.
everything else, like are, I mean, I punched through a board like a week and a half ago, and my knuckles still a little swollen. Like
Yeah.
it's just like
It's
like
very
we're
deceptive
not
about like what the
made
human
that
body is
way.
capable of. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
my
know.
dog sat down a little too hard on my foot and I couldn't walk well for 2 weeks.
don't you love ridiculous injuries like that? Where you're
Yeah,
like,
it's like,
come
what?
on. Like the body is amazing and also like stupidly
Yeah.
fragile.
Yeah.
Yep. I just think that like there was a time when I complain about things like, okay, well, a person could survive that, all right? They could. On like the best case scenario. You know, they get
Right.
shot up that
Right.
many times, and people do get shot that many times and they can live, you know. But we're to a point now where we're just treating everyone like a Gumby, you know.
Right.
Everyone is just indestructible if you want them to be.
Right.
And it's it's a little much. I
Yep.
wish we could go back. And we have people, you know, we have 95-pound women taking out a platoon of like 200-pound guys, you know. Meanwhile, like you say, being thrown through walls and everything. And it's like,
We're fine.
we got to buy into this world. Can we make that a little bit easier to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I think the first time I was on this podcast, I talked about how every time in a movie someone gets knocked out, I'm like, they're dead. Like that guy's not alive anymore. Like Batman doesn't kill anybody. Yeah, right. The dudes he knocks out cold are
Right.
like 95% of them are not coming back. Like that's
Right.
it. Sorry.
Yep.
Or it's like, is it really like more humane if he's like knocking them out and they wake up with like traumatic brain injuries? Like,
Eating through a
Mm.
tube for the rest of their life.
right? Like, are we really drawing like the moral compass line of like you said, eating through a tube the rest of your life and like you're dead? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Hey, but he's not killing anybody, so
Right?
he's a good guy.
Right.
That's what we always like talk about with Daredevil from Netflix. Is just like he
Yeah.
just beats everyone till they're a vegetable, and then sits on his high horse that he doesn't kill
No
anyone.
guns.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So, but that's what makes superhero stuff difficult, you know.
Yes.
But yeah. Well, anyways, Nicolas Cage. He's he's got some good movies these days. Mandy is amazing. Thick King is mentioning Pig. I really want to see Pig.
Same.
Is that out?
Very excited to see that. What's that?
When does that come out? When does Pig come out?
It is out. It is currently in theaters. So, yeah.
Not in my theaters, I
Um,
guess.
I do have to
I bet it
say,
is. It might be.
oh, it might. Yeah, I don't know. It didn't really get like publicized out. It got. I
Right.
mean, I saw the trailer and stuff like that, but it wasn't like it's out now. I have to say, I was watching the trailer for this, and I was really nervous for like half a second when they were dressing Nicolas Cage. I was really nervous that this was going to be another Ghost Rider.
Yeah,
Just
I
like
did
the
think
all
of
leather
Ghost. Yes,
outfit. I was
did.
like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, stop, don't, no, and then it wasn't, and I was like, okay, all right, I can move forward with this.
Mhm. Yep. Yep. Totally. That comes out September 17th.
Yep.
Prisoners of Ghostland. So looks like a ride. All right. We will now talk about Suicide Squad. We have a little bit
Mhm.
before we get spoilery, just to say that seems to be the recurring theme here potentially is, box office numbers. How are they going to
Oh
do?
yeah.
How are box office numbers doing? How are theaters doing? Um the Suicide Squad did not do as well as expected by a long shot at the theaters opening week. So there's lots of like theories and stuff. This, unlike Disney, is not doing like a also pay extra for premiere access kind of thing. It is just straight up available on HBO Max. So yeah, I mean, what do you guys think? I'm sad, I guess. I'm just hoping this movie has legs. I'm hoping that it's actually doing very well streaming, and
Hmm.
that's what's taken away from the box office.
Here's what I'm taking away from it. You are not going to be able to watch Dune day one streaming in your basement on
Oh,
your big screen. You're going to have to go to the movie theater to
wow.
see that.
Bold
I think
claim.
I think they are going to stop doing day one streaming releases. I think it'll be quicker. Like I think there won't be as much of a I don't know, maybe a month or 6 weeks or something like that before they
Sure.
bring it to streaming. But I can't
I
imagine that they would release another huge blockbuster and knowing that Dune is on the docket in a couple of months, like
well, see, I agree with you somewhat. Um, in only in the sense of like HBO Max has already paid out for those rights. So I feel like there'd have to be some like renegotiation or like rethinking on everybody's part. Um, just because like they've already paid for it. So I don't know like how like hard and fast they would do that. But I agree with you that I don't think this is a sustainable model
mhm,
for movies. You know what I mean? Like I know HBO Max has already like set out the rest of the year as like these are, releases that we're going to have day 1 also. And I don't know how little or, much room there is for negotiation on that.
mhm.
But yeah, this doesn't seem to be lending itself to this is a good idea for studios and for movies like this
I
because
know
they
a
are
lot of
losing so much.
key people involved in making movies are have the opinion that like yeah, it's not sustainable. That like if you
Yeah.
want big, huge, six-figure millions of dollars budget movies, like they can't go straight to streaming. They have
Mhm.
to have a theater exclusive release because
Right.
that's how they make their money back, like
Right.
to
And
make these movies.
I honestly don't think Disney's model is all that great either. I think there's a lot of griping about like paying that extra 30 bucks. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I don't think it's that great. Like I don't think that there's enough money to be made there
Well,
either.
it's why I went to the theater to go see Black Widow, but
Same.
stayed home to watch The Suicide Squad
Same.
because I could.
Yep. Yeah.
I
Exact
mean,
same
Now,
thing.
I might
good.
stay like so I was gonna say like even if I could day one, I know this is about the Suicide Squad, not Dune, but second time I'm bringing it up. But I know so even if that movie is available for me to stream on day one, I still might go to the theater just because it's a
Mhm.
new property. I guess it's huge cinematic thing and I kind of want to see it on as big a screen as possible. Whereas for like the Suicide Squad, for Black Widow, for those movies, I kind of felt like I was more interested in the less of less of the cinematics and more just like I want the story. I want to
Mhm.
watch the Marvel continuity again. But
Mhm. Yeah, there's a part of me that wishes I would have seen the Suicide Squad on the big screen. Now having seen it and seen what like like the cinematography and like how it's shot and like seeing some of the action sequences and thought like bet this would like pack a different punch on the big screen and it might be a
Mhm.
lot of fun in a way. Um, but I wasn't willing to like take the chance just because I'd seen Suicide Squad and been so disappointed with that. I was like, I don't really want to go spend my money for another disappointment.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I'm still on this train that, like, is this not a sustainable model, or is it just because we're expecting bigger theater numbers than we're getting? And how can we when it's available in another source? There are tons of people that don't care about the theater experience at all. There
Hmm.
are kids that are gonna sit and watch this movie. Well, hopefully they're not watching the Suicide Squad kids, but whatever, like they're gonna watch movies on their cell phone, their
Yeah.
5.7-inch cell phone. That's how they're going to consume this stuff. And that sounds insane to me, but that's what happens.
Yep.
Or their iPad set up and like, I'm watching this movie, this like 3-hour film that they put all this work into, you know, the sound and the visuals and everything that going into it. And I'm like half seeing it over here on my iPad. And like, so you give people that option on day of release. Of course, a lot of people are going to take it. So what do you expect? You're not going to get the same, you know, Black Widow opens, you're not going to get the same as Captain America or whatever,
Hmm.
when that one was only available in theaters, and
Hmm.
this one has multiple sources. Plus, there's a piracy issue on top of it as well. A lot of people are
Right.
complaining that if you put this out usually right away, it increases the capability for people to pirate things and share it all over in a good quality format.
Hmm.
So you're also losing to that. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I
I
think
mean,
still maybe we need to readjust our expectations when you're putting these in different places.
I agree with you. I don't think we're ever going to see unless we like fully shift to like we're back in the theaters like no matter what exclusive releases, we're never going to have that framework again where we can expect those kinds of numbers. But I also think that you are shooting yourself in the foot a little bit if you try to have this like both and like, you know, this like theater but also on streaming. Like you're not helping your case any for making money.
Mhm.
I mean, I get how they liked
Like
to
you said,
have,
piracy. Like that's
yeah,
like a huge way you're shooting yourself in the foot unless you can get around that in some fashion.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what you do exactly there because obviously Netflix and all the streaming services have to deal with that too when that
Right.
is your only place to put things.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, is it
I
just the hubris of Marvel and some of these like we're Marvel, like we make giant billion-dollar films,
Mhm.
and that's what we want to see, or uh, you know, I don't know, because there's high budget films on Amazon and
Yeah.
Netflix and stuff
Or
too,
high budget
you know.
series.
Yeah,
I
same
had read it.
difference then.
I had just read an article that was talking about the the comparison. Alan posted a little comment here about
Mm.
2.8 million households streamed the Suicide Squad in the first 4 days of release, and that's the second largest total of day-to-date title releases, just behind Mortal Kombat. And
Oh,
the
interesting.
article I had read talked about how Mortal Kombat still made its money back in theaters. Like
Mm.
it wasn't what they would consider a box office bomb.
Sure.
But also, Mortal Kombat's budget was like a quarter of the Suicide Squads.
Mhm.
Right.
So they had a lot longer way to go to recoup their investment. And
Mhm.
it would make sense to me that at a certain point there's diminishing returns if you're going to be doing this day of streaming
Mhm.
release. So um, mm,
Well, I know
Yeah.
I read a couple of articles that were talking about how the Suicide Squad was financially failing behind Suicide Squad. Um, which I think is like it's sort of an okay comparison, but a little like apples and oranges because again, Like Suicide Squad didn't get an option to be released same day streaming, so there was none of like that even possibility of taking away. So
And it
I
still
don't know.
brought in like three
But
quarters of $1 billion.
right, right. Yeah, I
And
just
I don't understand why. I was telling Andrea earlier, I just watched Suicide Squad for the first time yesterday. I hated it. It was terrible. Like the only good thing in that movie was Margot Robbie as her.
really okay.
And I think I yeah, $750 million at the box office. That's what the original
Was
Suicide Squad
Suicide?
had.
Yeah, okay.
And I think that it most likely did as well as it did because of Will Smith and his international appeal.
Yeah.
I think it was solely on the back of Will Smith because
I think
it was
also
a bad movie. I didn't like it at all.
I would say probably a majority of Will Smith, yes, like box office draw. Probably also like the advertising was really fun. I
Mm,
remember for Suicide Squad, like the advertising was great.
yep.
And the movie was not.
yeah.
But that doesn't mean anything because you always have to like take that gamble. You know, when it's a theatrical release, it's like, oh, this looks so cool. Like, great, I'm gonna go see it. And then you roll the dice and sometimes you lose.
And that
And you
might,
lost.
yeah,
You
that's
lost with
probably a
Suicide
huge thing.
Squad, but like
Yeah.
advertising was great.
The hype, I'm sure, and a new property and hero
It's like
movies are at like their
right. It's like
highest
dark,
point.
fun Avengers, like R-rated Avengers, even though it wasn't R-rated, which
Yeah, it
was
ended
a
up not
bad
being
move.
R-rated.
But it was supposed to be, and it looked all
Yeah.
like, "Ooh, it should be so fun," and it
A
just
lot of
wasn't.
hyped up promises that didn't end up
Yeah,
coming true. And then
but too late. You already took my money.
yeah, yeah, you got your money, so, go home. But I think that might be another reason why, to some degree, maybe the Suicide Squad isn't doing as well.
Mhm.
Audiences have been burned once on this concept.
Yep.
And if you even saw the semi sequel to the original Suicide Squad, Birds of Prey, also slightly better. I'll say that I was more entertained with that movie, but there was a lot of like just what's the point of this? And when I was watching it, and at the halfway mark, had to check how much time was left because I kind of just wanted to stop watching it. Like you almost if you're a fan or you were expecting more from either of those movies in that continuity, like it was disappointing. And so like now I'm expected to go back and watch a third movie in
Mhm.
that same maybe in that same continuity or in that same realm. Like, nah, I don't think so.
Well, I'm gonna set aside Birds of Prey for just a moment and
Mhm.
just like build on that concept because I agree, especially when the trailers and ads for the Suicide Squad, built up this notion of like the people who were coming back from the first one. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I feel like Alan should throw up spoilers for this because I'm gonna say something
Okay. All
that
right.
is
So
spoilery.
spoilers
Thank you, Alan,
here for Suicide Squad,
and for the
the
Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad, and potentially Birds of Prey.
Yes.
I'm sorry if you're not all caught up on the DC
Yeah,
boondoggle.
in the whole DC universe, look out. So,
You know
okay,
what?
so
Let me throw in another disclaimer there, listener. If you haven't seen the original Suicide Squad or Birds of Prey, let us spoil it for you. It's watching. It's not worth it. So
I will halfway disagree with you, but not about Suicide Squad.
okay.
Um, so okay, so but the Suicide Squad, so they built it up like it was like all these returning people, which I mean, kind of, yeah, like Waller is back and Harley Quinn is back and Rick Flag's back, but then it was like Captain Boomerang was coming back. No, he wasn't. He was in like 3 minutes of this movie, and he was like in a whole bunch of the trailers and stuff, and I was like,
Mm,
I'm sorry, what? So like, why would you do that? Why would you do that to yourself? Like, why would you even like hint at this being like, carryover and continuity from the first movie when you know it bombed so terribly? Like, why not focus on more of like the newer members? And I just did not get that advertising angle.
Well,
Do you
I
get
don't.
what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
I was
no,
really
for sure.
frustrated with that because I feel like it's again like shooting yourself in the foot because yeah, sure, like there were, a couple people, but like I said, like Captain Boomerang was just like gone. He was done. Like
Mm.
That
three
would be the
minutes.
thing that would like cut the movie off at the legs if it was gonna have any kind. If you were going in with the promotion expecting this and then you didn't get it, and then
Mhm.
that upsets you, so you don't go see it again or recommend others to see it or that kind of thing, because it wouldn't affect the initial
Mhm.
week or whatever, because you wouldn't know if that's going to be the case. You'd be going in, yeah, assuming, and unless you think that them re-promoting characters from the other one, no one cared about those characters, therefore they didn't go.
I
So
gotta,
When they
that's
should
what
have
I
I
been
think.
known that,
Like,
I
hey,
gotta
because
interject
if you
here.
were already disappointed in that, like, then why would you go for this one, which doesn't promise you anything new, seemingly from the trailer?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like if you were already disappointed, like that's a reason that you would be like, no, I'm gonna stay away. Like, why would I just rewatch what I just watched and it was terrible? Like,
Who the
I need something new.
who the hell watched The Suicide Squad for Captain Boomerang?
But no, like
Like,
like
that's
all
what
I'm
that's what
all
she's
I'm
saying, kind of. It's
that's
like,
what that's what I'm
you
saying.
watched
Like,
the
why
first
would
one
you?
and I didn't like Captain Boomerang, so
oh,
when
okay.
they're
Why
advertising
would you
it,
I
want to
thought you were
come to
going the
this
other way
one?
with
Boomerang.
it. Yeah,
No,
yeah, yeah.
sorry, sorry. No, that's what I'm trying to say is like, why, if you were already disappointed by all of
Jai
these
Courtney, come on.
and the
Yes,
trailer
I'm Courtney
promised
fans.
you the
Yeah.
trailer promised you more of those characters you were already disappointed by, then I would sit there and be like, no, I'm not rewatching another 2 hours of the crap I just watched.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think that whoever put those trailers together
Mm.
did a terrible job of being like, oh, it's like the faces you already know from Suicide Squad. No, I don't want to
Yeah.
know those same
They wanted
faces.
to get all 10 fans back.
Yeah,
Okay,
gotta
okay,
do
okay.
some fan base, some fan
I have to
service
put
here.
I have to put a little in here and say that for what it's worth, I enjoyed Suicide Squad more than I thought I would initially. So
Okay.
I saw Suicide Squad not right when it came out, but somewhere around that time. And like I found redemptive elements about it. And like for that film doing better for what it, than what we've got right now and better than Birds of Prey and stuff, a lot of that makes sense because where that came from in that time, DC was not in this same mess that it is now.
Mm,
DC is so confusing right now, and it's such a mix of like continuities, and they're just playing with the multiverse. They just like whatever they want. They do whatever story they want to tell.
Which
So
I think
there's
is the
no,
best thing they could do right now.
I mean, with the mess they've made for themselves, maybe, because they're never going to figure it out. But it's not creating the urgency to see things like you would in the Marvel when you know it's connected.
mhm.
So you're going to have, back when Suicide Squad first came out, you've got a couple of things going for it. One, DC universe not in such a mess. You don't know that it's going to be like all these different things, all these different projects in different universes and different times and stuff.
Right.
Two, you have the Joker, which every time the Joker draws, because there's always a big stink made about who's playing the Joker and what their take is going to be on the Joker.
Mhm.
Now, with part of the disappointment of the film was for people was either they didn't like the take of the Joker or that he wasn't in there as much, either
Right.
way.
Especially for
So
what the
what's even,
trailer said he was gonna be.
yeah, nonetheless, a draw. And then, you're riding on the back of, like you said, also having some star power in there in Will Smith. So you've got like, it's a whole different setup for when that movie's coming out. Plus it had a cool soundtrack. Like Ashley and I still listen to a lot of songs in that soundtrack.
I do like that
They did
soundtrack.
music videos with the Joker and stuff. And like, I forgot his name right now, but like a EDM guy.
Hmm.
And it was just like a whole thing. And then, right, Birds of Prey comes out, so we get to and it's the
Is that
first movie we get to
Skrillex?
see Harley Quinn in. because Harley Quinn has never come to the screen before. So how is
Right.
Harley Quinn going to be? There's an interest there as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's a lot going for that has waned now in this crazy situation we're in with DC. We know how Margot Robbie is with Harley Quinn. We don't have the draw of Will Smith. We don't have the Joker. We have in this new movie a whole bunch of weird characters no one knows anything about. And I think fans overestimated the draw of Guardians of the Galaxy director, you
Mm-hmm.
know? I think that fans, a lot of people really involved or whatever, are like, "Hey, I want to see this movie because I want to see what Gunn does with it."
Mm-hmm.
That was the point.
Mhm.
But that's very few people. Like mainstream audiences have no idea who James
Right.
Gunn is.
Right.
None. So
Right.
that's not a draw. Instead, they see this wacky movie that they make no connection with any of the characters other than Harley Quinn, which they've seen in 2 pretty sucky movies.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I don't know.
No, I think it's very valid points. Yeah. If we I think we can still credit I personally think we can still credit much of the failure of the box office to the streaming debacle. Because there really aren't any other competing movies out there. Maybe Black Widow, but that came out what, a month ago now. So,
Mm-hmm.
like it I think in normal context it should have done better if it was just in theaters. How much better? I don't know. But I think it would have done somewhere between Alan listed the Birds of Prey box office, which was 200 million. I think it would have done somewhere between that and the original Suicide Squad.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
I mean, that's a big window, but
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
make your money
Like
back.
500 million.
Yeah, but with a budget of 180 or 190, whatever it was, like that's make your money back. So
I think it's eventually going to make its money back,
Mhm.
even if it didn't like this first opening weekend. But that's not exactly like a yardstick of great success.
Mhm.
Well,
I can see people liking it enough, watching it at home, streaming it, that they now
Mhm.
go to the theater to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I would consider it just for like some of what I know now of like the sequences in the film would be like the ending, like the giant, Starro
Starro.
rampage would just be like fun to see on a big screen.
Mhm.
Mhm. I
Um,
mean, the other thing I think still is that people are like, I think Grace from Beyond the Trailers maybe pointed out or whatever, or someone has, that when you're dealing with streaming, the product is the streaming service.
Yep.
When you're dealing with the box office, the product is the movie.
Yep.
So when you're releasing a
Right.
movie and you're putting it on the streaming service, it's not about making the money back on that film. It's about
Mhm.
bringing people to your service. It's about enhancing the service,
Mhm.
So your
Mhm.
money is the people coming into that. It's not the individual film. And it just like, that's the way it to be. And you're not going to make as much money in
Mhm.
one pop out of one thing because
Right.
you can't look at it that way. You have to look at the sustainability of your service.
Right.
That's what they're doing well with the spacing of the Marvel shows on Disney
Yep.
is like you kind of always have a show. And
Yep.
hopefully that's good enough to keep you there. And when there's no Marvel show, then there's a Star Wars show. Like that's what it is, So I don't think Disney can have their cake and eat it too. And I think it'll be the same over on HBO Max. You can't expect to put these things in the theater, your product, but to give people no sense of urgency to see it and then be worried about like keeping your service growing and sustaining a base there.
Mhm. I don't know I wonder if anybody's done any analysis on the the profitability of, sustaining, I guess, subscriptions through a streaming service versus generating income through theatrical releases of movies.
Mhm.
I don't know
Right.
if you
I'm
could do that, but
Yeah, I'm sure somebody has tried.
you know,
Well, yeah.
Well, and to address your urgency question or your urgency issue, I mean, there is a sense ish of urgency because like you do have to like watch some of these movies on streaming services before they're dropped.
See,
You know what
I
I
know
mean?
that
Like
now. How
they're
many people know that up front? I went to watch Mortal Kombat, a couple weeks ago.
right?
I was like, "Oh, it's not on here. I swear this came out on HBO Max same day." Oh,
Yep.
I
Mhm.
look it up and it was gone after what amount of time. So I know that
They
now, but
Yeah, they did a really good job of saying that when they released Wonder Woman 1984. They kept saying
mm,
like watch it before, X date or whatever, and it's like streaming on HBO Max for like 1 month or I think however long it was. But since then they haven't been good about saying like you only have X amount of time to watch.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I don't know if maybe that would help some of the like people who are on the fence who are like, yeah, maybe we should just like sign up for HBO Max for the month or whatever. And then they just sort of like get caught in too lazy to cancel trap.
Mhm.
then
Mhm.
maybe the time of the like massive, huge, multi-million dollar blockbuster movie is just kind of done. Everybody is on to their television show that is a high enough budget and they enjoy it the heck out of
Mhm.
it. And it's kind of like the PlayStation president before he was kicked out or whatever. He said we need to stop making these games that keep getting more and more expensive, that keep getting longer and longer. It's not
Mhm.
sustainable. We
Yeah.
need to make games, if we're going to have this level of quality, games that are like 15 hours,
Right.
in length, 20 hours. So it can't be 80-hour length games that take 5 years to make and then think we're going to make our money back at $60 to $70 a piece. It's not
Yeah.
going to work, because so I think maybe movies become that too. And we, can see, that a Netflix show can be a fraction of the budget and still bring people into the service. I don't know.
Yeah, I was
Anyways,
I was
I'm
gonna say
sure.
like, can it though? Because like I just feel like now like streaming service television shows budgets are just like getting wildly out of hand as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe that's gonna be.
I find it. I don't know. I don't want to lose the theater experience, because I feel
No, I
like
don't either.
you can do a lot with a movie that has a budget of a six-figure budget, or sorry, a six or like a nine-figure budget or whatever. Hundreds of millions of dollars that you can't do with a TV show that you have a maximum like 10 million an episode budget. You know, and I think it would be a huge loss. And I like the Marvel shows. I think they're great,
Mhm.
but there definitely is a tone difference, a feeling difference, just a sensory difference in the
Yeah.
experience of watching one of the movies versus watching one of the TV shows.
I
Hmm.
agree. And I hadn't realized how much I'd missed the theater experience until I went to go see Black Widow in the
Mhm,
theater. I was
mhm,
like, yeah, I do miss this. I do
mhm,
like miss like the anticipation, the feeling, the I can't fast forward through this. I can't, you know what I mean? Like there's a weird like you're stuck. Like you have to watch things as they unfold. You can't just like pause anything or like quick, like, oh, I don't really want to watch this part or like, oh, I
mhm,
want to see what happens. Like, nope, you're stuck. You just have to watch it as it unfolds.
mhm,
So I missed
I,
that.
uh, I mean, I'm definitely kind of two ways about it. I absolutely like the theater experience. I definitely agree that's a valuable thing. Um, but I don't know that to me it's the budget that's doing it because I can go see a low budget. Yeah, like I think Loki looks just as good as any of the main Marvel movies. I think it has a better cinematography than plenty of them
mhm.
that can all look pretty flat.
You don't
Um,
in the Loki show though, in any of the shows, there really wasn't as big a set pieces that you get in the films.
Mm,
Like maybe you were getting kind of closer to more theatrical set pieces in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but I don't really think so. I feel like there was just like in the Netflix Marvel shows from several years ago, like they were a lot more. They stood on the strength of the narrative, on the dialogue between characters, and yeah, there were some fun action bits like Daredevil kicking the crap out of a dozen dudes in a hallway, right? Like that was really cool to see. But that's not the same thing as, 3 giant helicarriers being shot out of the sky over Washington, D.C., and Winter Soldier and Captain America flying. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, for sure. But like, look at Game of Thrones. Like, I think sometimes the stuff, what that thing is can be the thing that hinders it, because, like you say, with the Netflix things, they had to focus on character, story, like dialogue, like that's where the emotion comes from. That's where the like important stuff happens. And in Game of Thrones, I know they had to save like budget for like towards the end, like the penultimate episode each season, to have the bigger battle or the dragons or the special effects. Well, what if they had carte blanche on budget for the rest of this show and they could do all that crazy stuff in every episode? Would we get the amazing dialogue between Tyrion and Tywin? Would we get those moments, or would they fill it with shit? Would they just fill it with battle after battle and dragon after dragon, or they have to craft their art with a limitation now that creates a build to something that is meaningful? Like, I mean, independent filmmakers can make some pretty amazing effects these days. I know not everybody can be a Nolan and shut down New York, to film in the streets, like that's cool, for sure. But I don't know. I don't want to ruin Loki, but I feel like there's for sure one scene that's pretty grand, on the one space there, and like, yeah.
Yeah, they did have some pretty. Yeah, I guess they had some big pieces there, but and I guess I did. I noticed the difference less between Loki, the show, and the Marvel movie canon, as opposed to the previous 2 series. But John, to your comment about like Game of Thrones and being a fan of that series before it was even a show, I do remember thinking that a show is the most appropriate way to approach Game of Thrones, because the story was so like character driven, and that by doing a 92-hour or even 3-hour movie of the entirety of the Game of Thrones story would not have been close to doing it service, knowing that half of that time would have been spent on just like,
who are all these people?
Yeah, well, that, and also like massive battles or dragons, or just like the showy bits that you're trying to draw people into the theater with. If it was like planned to be a series of movies, maybe. But when I heard it was going to be made into a TV series, I was like, that's the best way to do it. And I did, but on the flip side of that, watching that show, I did feel at times there was like, well, yeah, they kind of like rushed through that bit, because how could you really bring that to screen? Like, how can you shoot that thing? I don't know, I'll think of an example, but so it makes sense that they weren't able to do that, or there's like, location, or money limitations, in terms of being able to do some of the things that actually occur in the books. So you come up with some other alternative which isn't as gripping. But
Yep. Okay, well, I'm sure that the topic of the movie theater situation versus streaming service and like everything it's gonna keep coming up. We're gonna find out if Dune, if they stick to their plan or they change it or what happens here. So we'll stay on it. I apologize to the audience if you are tired of this show talking about this, but I mean it's the news thing in movies every week. So as every big show comes out, it's
we started with the Suicide Squad and then devolved into
Yep.
So
okay.
I have to
Go ahead.
derail us like super quickly. It just in like talking about like shows and movies having budgets of like crazy amounts. Like when you guys were talking about like budget, I was thinking like certain TV shows absolutely have like way more, I think, of a budget even than like a movie does. Like and the first thing I thought of was Amazon Prime's Lord of the Rings. Because
Mm.
that budget, I was just like, I remember reading a figure and it was insane. And it is $465 million. That's their
How many,
budget to
Okay.
make one season of a TV show.
how
Like,
many episodes are they doing?
that is a good question.
Is it like 10 1-hour episodes or something?
Let's see.
It's usually the typical.
Yeah, I can't imagine they're doing like a 22 episode season.
Yeah. A lot of filler episodes.
Yeah. Yeah, we've already determined like we can't do a whole lot of filler with Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
Cough,
right.
cough, a Hobbit, cough, cough.
Yeah. 8 episodes, and you said in the four and a half,
465 million.
465 million. So think about it that way then. And each episode, let's just assume each episode is 60 minutes or close to it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so you got about 4 feature length or, modern day feature length films,
Right.
2 hours of film. Each Lord of the Rings was what, 2 to 2.5 hours about?
3 pushing.
Were we pushing 3 hours, most of them?
Mhm.
All 3 of them? All right. So I don't know, maybe a little less than 3 Lord of the Rings movies you're shooting in the form of these TV shows. Alan said the extendeds were
Yeah.
closer to 3, but maybe the original theatrical releases were closer to 2.5. I don't know, whatever.
Probably, yeah.
So 3 to 4 feature-length movies you're shooting in the season, and then you divide a $450 million budget amongst those 4 movies. Now you're sitting at maybe just over 100 million per
2
movie.
episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Per
So-
movie,
Yep.
yeah. That's insane
Like-
though.
Yeah. But that's definitely big budget movie cost.
Yeah,
know.
that's like, I mean, it's nothing.
Black
It's
Widow's
not like
200 million budget.
right.
That's supposedly Black Widow's 200 million. Wonder Woman 1984 is supposedly 200 million.
So yeah, I
you know.
mean,
Well, yeah, and then considering that when HBO, I'm pulling this out of thin air, I think I read it somewhere, but like when HBO did Game of Thrones, I remember them saying 10 million an episode was about kind of what the cost was. And maybe in the later seasons with the big set piece episodes, they were more, but generally speaking, it was about 10 million per episode.
well, but when
Which
you
is
think about
nothing
it,
by comparison.
yeah, exactly. That's what like if you think about like their 8 to 10 episode seasons, that's like one fraction of what Amazon is spending now on Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Lord of the
won't be
Rings-
better for it is what I contest.
Not unless Ian McKellen's in it.
Yeah, it's gonna be weird.
Yeah. I'm excited. It'll be good. I
I'm
don't
not-
think they.
Yeah, I'm not gonna watch it. It's just it's gonna be
I'm
weird.
excited, but it's not going to be good.
It's gonna be
That's
train
fine.
wreck watching, like kind of you can't look away.
Yeah.
Hopefully not.
Yeah.
John, you
hopefully
really
not.
aren't. You really don't think it's gonna be good.
No, I don't. I think that they should have stopped at Lord of the Rings. They hit it there. It was good.
Hmm.
I mean, I would love to be wrong. I hope I'm wrong.
I
I
would-
just like going off of The Hobbit
Ugh,
and
no.
seeing what they
Take
want to
back
do
The
with The
Hobbit.
Hobbit. Just take this smallest book and just stretch it.
I don't know,
Stretch it into 3 long movies. Oh my God.
I'm gonna
You're a
be the-
Hobbit movie apologist.
No, don't.
I'm gonna be the black sheep here, I guess. I enjoyed the Hobbit movies. I thought they were
I-
good.
There were
I need to
there
see the
were
third one. I didn't
moments-
watch the third one. I didn't watch the third one.
If you didn't like the first 2, I don't think the third one's gonna be the saving
No, it's not
grace
gonna
that pulls
sa-
it all
it's-
together
no.
for you, John. I liked all 3 of them. I thought they were all good movies on their own, and they were all interesting, and they kept me watching. And I feel like what I've read about those movies and the complaints surrounding them were things that weren't bothering me. Like, yeah, they were using a lot more CG in the Hobbit movies than they did in the original or in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And yeah, I kind of like real effects as opposed to generated effects. But like, I don't know. You see all sorts of stuff that's unbelievable now. Like watching Iron Man in Endgame, like seeing Robert Downey Jr.'s real head clearly floating on a fake robot body. Like, yeah, that's clearly computer generated. Like, it doesn't look real at all. But whatever. Like, it's still a fun movie, and I'm able to suspend my disbelief enough to enjoy it. And I kind of felt that way of the Hobbit movies. But then again, also, I don't crucify me for this. Never read The Hobbit.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't have some sort of like expectation going into it that it was going to be a certain way.
Well, for me, I think the problem here is that when you read The Hobbit, it works as a story. You know what I mean? Like it's a very satisfying story in and of itself. It's not
Mhm.
like, oh my God, you have to be like so faithful to the source material and how dare you change like X, Y, and Z. It's just like, this is a good story. Why did you need to like insert all this extra stuff? That's more of like what my disappointment was. Like you
Was there
took a
enough material in the book though to do like even a single movie?
yeah, absolutely. There absolutely is. Cause like the first Hobbit movie is almost basically like I don't know. I feel like it's like 65% of The Hobbit, and then they just like 2 and 3 just like stretched it out. And like the ending of the first movie, it's like, oh shoot, like we forgot we weren't making one movie. So let's just quick like throw in like another complication here. So we have to, set up 2 and 3.
Mm,
So like there's a really great one movie story in The Hobbit,
mhm,
and they just it was like painful. It was painful dragging out. And
mm,
that's I think having read The Hobbit was most disappointing
mm.
because it is good on
I
its own.
I have thoughts, but I will save them because we haven't done a Lord of the Rings episode or
Yeah, that's
Hobbit or anything
true.
like that. So we
That's true.
definitely should get into Tolkien at some point. So
Yeah.
okay. Alan, if you want to bring up the slides, we're gonna talk the Suicide Squad.
Here
We've
we
been
go.
talking about
Finally.
like we've been
Finally.
talking about it, and we're gonna finally talk about it. So it's in theaters now. It's on HBO Max. It's the I don't know, like you say, maybe sequel to or cap of a trilogy. If nothing else, is a sequel to the original Suicide Squad. Most of the characters that we're familiar with in the first one are not returning in any meaningful way other than Harley Quinn. And I saw it in theaters. Sounds like you two saw it at home.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And Andrea, what'd you think?
Um, so overall, I enjoyed the movie. It's hard. I'm gonna try and like stay away for now from comparing it to Suicide Squad, like saying like, oh, I enjoyed it more than like I'm just trying to like look at it as its own thing. I did enjoy the movie. It was a lot of fun. It was definitely like appropriately rated for like what the Suicide Squad should be, which is like it's a bunch of, villains. And thank God Harley Quinn didn't. Sorry, I'm already breaking my rule. Thank God Harley Quinn didn't say we're the bad guys like 60,000 times in this movie. But they are the bad guys. And it's, they need room to just be like bad people doing bad things and killing a bunch of people because that's who they are. So I thought this movie was a lot of fun, much more appropriate for our main cast of characters. And we got a little bit less exposition and more just like dive into what's happening. So I really appreciated that. I thought there were a few pacing issues, a couple of issues, I think, where um, I don't know if it was Gunn or a writer or a combo of both kind of struggled with some of the more like moments where maybe you should have been more serious or a little bit more emotional. And it was like, oh, like I really want to fast forward through this so I can get back to like the fun parts. So those were I think a little awkward for me, but overall a really great job. And like the main cast like really held this movie together well.
Shane?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great movie. I got exactly, honestly, what I expected of you know, the director and the well, he's the writer and director, so of both of that one party in both contexts. And I thought now having seen the original Suicide Squad, again, not trying to compare the two, but
Mhm.
um, the the characterization of the returning characters was done way better.
Mhm.
And like you had probably 3 times as many characters being introduced in like less than a tenth of the time, and I didn't feel like any of the characters needed more
Yeah.
introduction. Like these are all wacky, zany characters. Yes, they're the bad guys. Yes, I expect many of them to die, and that is what happened. Like, and
Mhm.
it was well timed. It was. I will agree that there was probably some. There was a little bit some poor pacing
Mhm.
narratively at certain points of the movie, or just like interesting kind of jumps from
Mhm.
one scene to the next with just like a little tag like meanwhile this was going, or something like that. And it did kind of feel like to kind of cut its own legs out from under itself, or of the where it was going or the pace that it was at or whatever. But the next scene that you saw was like, I'm okay with that because this next scene is either hilarious or awesome or whatever.
Yep.
And like I was excited to see what was coming up next. So I didn't really care that we were jumping from one awesome, hilarious, or violently, comically gory scene to another. Like it was fine because I knew that where we were going next was going to be just as great. So, um, yeah, that was my takeaway.
I yeah, I really really liked it. Can't I don't really have any complaints.
Mm.
Other than I thought it's completely ridiculous that Harley Quinn takes her legs, wraps around a guy's neck, and just whoop, I'm just gonna pull myself up here and twist his neck. Like, okay, that's not happening. Even
Did
though it was
you
a
did
cool
you read my
scene.
comment on
Like,
that in the notes?
a Xenia, like a Xenia on a top moment.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
It was like the
yes,
first thing I thought of. I was like, "Oh my god. It's Famke Janssen and she's having a little like
Oh my
my
god, that
thighs
was
are
Famke
weapons."
Janssen, wasn't it?
Yeah,
yes.
that's
That's
right.
Wow.
great.
I went old school for that one, digging deep in
Yeah,
the Bond
I
archives.
totally forgot about that.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Really? Oh man, she's classic. That movie. Okay, I don't want to
Well,
derail,
I
but
haven't forgotten her. I just
so good.
forgot that she played Xenia.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, that was the first thing I
Xenia
thought
on
of.
the
I was
top.
like, "Oh man, this is happening right now. Thighs are weapons again."
Yeah. Yep. Um, but yeah, I don't have any like maybe I need to see it again, but just like trying now. I didn't think about it critically as I watched it. Like it happened nicely,
Mm,
went by well, and I was entertained enough that didn't like myself didn't get taken out of it to think about it super critically. I
sure.
just thought it was a really fun roller coaster ride. I like what you said, Shane, where it took way less time to
Yeah.
introduce us to way more characters, and we didn't need to know more than that. We didn't need to like detour the whole film to go to someone's apartment to see their troubled family life. We can learn about these characters as you do as a good storyteller. You learn about these characters as you go through the film.
Mhm.
You learn more about them. I thought the movie was hilarious in a number of scenes. Seeing Polka Dot Man, he's on screen now. Seeing his mom everywhere never got old. I thought that was great. Um, I thought the taking out the camp of people
Mhm.
and
That
then
was so
like,
much
oh,
fun.
hey, these were the freedom fighters here. That was great. And like the little competition that they had with one another there. And like John Cena just being weird in his tidy whities and
Mhm.
the King Shark being adorable, at times. And then we'd have poignant moments somehow, like with King Shark going and making his like little friends in the
Mhm.
aquarium. is like a sweet moment, and like the music plays well there. And then of course later they're trying to kill him, like it. I just really thought it was a good movie.
Mhm.
Um, I don't. It hit all the right places. Harley Quinn felt the most Harley Quinn in this of all the
Mhm.
things. The idea that she would sleep with the president, and then like, I don't really like this element about you, so then I'm going to shoot you, and then
Mhm.
says exactly what I'm thinking, that there's a bullet in that gun, like in the display case. Okay, I thought, yeah, I don't know. Tell me why I'm wrong. I didn't see anything I didn't like about it. Every care, and then like the rat catcher too.
Mhm.
I thought that was Taika Waititi, her as her dad at first, and
Mhm.
Yes.
then
Mhm.
Yep.
revealed later that it was. And that poignant moment again at the end, like, because why rats, Dad? Because if rats can make a difference, then everyone can, or anyone can,
Mhm.
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 like those pieces, made me care about the characters. Um, I don't know. I just liked it.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
since you mentioned the silently storming the freedom fighters camp and murdering everybody scene, I did think that, and this is kind of a comment on the pacing of the movie too, to some extent, is my sort of the one thing that I wasn't really certain about was the so with regards to at least that scene and maybe several others, the attempt at kind of a long comedy bit at the expense of narrative believability. And what that means is that, like, at least me watching it, I felt that um, when that scene was done and they kind of walk into the final hut and Flag is sitting
Yep.
there with the leader and they're like, "Oh, what are you guys doing here?" And we're like, "Oh, we just murdered everybody." And then the leader's like, "Oh, okay, I guess you're my new friends." Like, I was sort of like, well, these were like people and like they just died. And I feel like she'd be more torn up about that and not want to partner with these people now. But
Mhm.
I don't know. So, but it was a funny joke, and I was okay. I get it. It was humorous that they were competing against each other and whatever, and now they're remorseful to some extent, I guess. But yeah, I guess that's my question. What do you think about those elements in this movie where it was like clearly they kind of like sacrificed I don't know, maybe some more, I guess, gravitas in terms of the narrative for like a fart joke or like a joke just to whatever. I guess what I'll say about it is I think it typically doesn't work, and maybe they get a little bit of a pass for this type of movie just because it's so comically over the top
Mhm.
in the right way that it sort of works. But I think like it's a real dangerous spot to go narratively or to like take a movie into, because I feel like it could really quickly just sort of become too hokey in a way. I
Mhm.
don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you, and don't necessarily think it's even just like um comedy getting sacrificed for believability. I think this movie in particular does a lot of build up and rug pulling,
Mhm.
and I think that there's a moment towards the end where I just think it gets used one too many times, and it just sort of gets like, yeah, but like, am I ever gonna care about anything because you keep like pulling the rug out from under me?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, so there is a danger, I think, in either um like using anything too many times or being too over the top too many times where it does sort of like pull you out. Um and I definitely get what you're saying about that scene because I was very much into like that whole competition between Bloodsport and Peacemaker and being like, "Oh my god, they keep killing people in ever more ridiculous ways." And I
Yeah.
am like, I'm with it. It's super funny. And
Mhm.
I was all in for it because like we're killing a camp of bad guys. Like this is great. It's super funny. They're just like, eyeballing the shit out of each other.
Mhm.
And then it was like, oh shit, we just killed like a bunch of our allies. Like, and Rick Flag was like, "What are you doing?" And you're right, like the leader of this guerrilla camp was just sort of like looking around at people whose guts were literally hanging out, and all she could muster was like a head shake.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh, like now I'm deflated a little bit because I just had this like really fun time, and you just sort of like yanked the rug and said like, "Oh, you probably shouldn't think that was fun anymore."
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly uh that certainly all makes sense. I think that for whatever reason it works for me. Yeah, given the type of film I think
Sure.
is pretty unique.
Mhm. Mhm.
That it's so I'm probably lacking the right words to describe it, but like you said, Andrew, with the rug pulling, like anytime someone often they get their moment, then it would
Mhm.
be like taken from them. Like it's like Polka Dot Guy. He's like, fine, I'm a
Mhm.
hero, dead.
Bam. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. And and it again goes to like the tongue in cheek, this is supposed to be completely ridiculous kind of
Mhm.
romp where Harley Quinn pulls a antique gun out of a case and there's a round in it and she admits like, why was there a bullet in this? I can't believe there was.
Mhm.
Those
Mhm.
kinds of things, like admitting the unbelievable nature of this. Even like it's always those like expectations or doing something a little different. Like the group is going to rescue Harley Quinn and she breaks herself out and she's right there and they were setting up the whole plan or whatever.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I think it's a lot of ludicrous and you're right, in a different film none of that would make
Mhm.
sense. None of
So,
this would make sense.
yeah, and I feel like this is a good point to interject a little bit of the original Suicide Squad thing, just because I just watched it, and this is one of the comparisons I made that, like, being that they're essentially the same, contextually, this same movie, right? Like the same team of anti-heroes or whatever. Like, the original one took itself way too seriously. And
Mhm.
Yep.
so it failed where this movie like very much succeeds because it knows what it is.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, look at Michael Rooker at the beginning. He's
Mhm.
set up as like he's this badass, right? He's stoic. He doesn't say the word any words hardly. He's really good with that ball and he kills the bird, so he's hardcore. And
Mhm.
he's being brought in, expert. And then they get to the beach and he sees everybody and they're like, God, what amateurs? He's manages to save the person, pull him out of the water. Everybody else is just gonna leave the weasel.
Mhm.
God, what a bunch of fools. And then the shit hits the fan and he just turns the other way and starts screaming and running helplessly into the
Mhm.
water. Like
Mhm.
just whatever your expectations were of him, they
Mhm.
are gone and he's used as a joke. Like
Yep.
Mhm.
so many of them are used as a punchline at some point and that's all they are. And you can't take them more seriously than that. And if you do, then you know, yeah, then you're in for like disappointment because,
Mhm.
the realistic thing would, yeah, be for the like freedom fighter leader to like break down crying and like be in dread of these people, we flee or something like that.
Mhm.
And, her family's just been killed and everything, but it's just not like everything is for a joke,
Mhm.
Mhm.
basically. Which I'm surprised why I still felt moments of like, I don't know, some sort of emotion in all the fray of chaos. I don't
Mhm.
know.
Yeah, I guess for me it was just like I said, it was one too many of those for me. I really liked, I want to say like probably 85 to 90% of it, and then by the end I was like a little like, can I like care about anything? You know what I mean? Like even like when you were
Mhm.
talking earlier about King Shark, Nanaue meeting those like little jelly dudes, and he's like, "Oh, friends," and it's like this cute little
Mhm.
moment, and I was like, my god, it is so cute. He has like little fish friends now. And then like the second I thought it, I was like, yeah, this is probably gonna like turn bad though. So I was like taken out of it because I was like, I probably shouldn't enjoy this because they're like somehow this is gonna get turned like either he's gonna care about them and then like they're gonna get blown up and he's gonna be really sad about it, or like they did, like they were evil little turds who just like tried to turn on him and eat him. They were literally just like massing on him, and I was like, oh well, see, there you go. That's why I shouldn't have enjoyed that. And like like most of the way through, I really enjoyed it, and then by the end, I was like, can I just have like one thing be fine and normal and like it's fine? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes, you got one thing. You got blood sport, growing as a person, getting a little less afraid of rats, petting the
That
rat,
was cute. That
and
was
his
cute.
daughter seeing him
Finally,
on television. Like, that's my dad, being having a
although
proud moment in
Although,
that.
yes. Okay, so I'm gonna agree with you totally about Sebastian the rat because that was adorable and I was really excited about that. I don't agree about his daughter though, because like she was in there for like 2 minutes and they were screaming like fuck you at each other. And that was another scene where I was just like, I don't know, it felt like clunky to just have them
Mhm.
like screaming at each other for like 2 minutes as loud as they could, just like the same words back and forth. And I was like, cool, but now he cares about his daughter. Like, I don't know. It like
Well,
that
she
that
cares.
that
Yeah.
I
yeah,
feel
that
like
Yeah.
the
part
daughter,
to me was just like a little clunky.
yeah,
Like could have somehow been worked in better because it was almost like a weird like I'm not Deadshot, but I am Deadshot a little
mm,
bit with my whole daughter dynamic, you
mhm.
know. So I don't know.
Like you could have just not had the daughter.
Yeah, just didn't even need to be
You
a
had the
thing
rat.
there.
You had him overcoming his fear of rats.
Yeah.
You didn't need the
Yeah,
daughter in
but
there.
you saw it, like he kind of like treated Ratcatcher 2 sort of like his daughter. You sort
But,
of
Mhm.
like, that
saw
could have
her
been
there,
yeah, that
and
could have
so
been
that
the
a bit
whole,
of
like,
growth.
growing human emotion, like, all of that. Like, I just didn't even need, like, that subplot in there. That's just, like, a few like, one example of, like, the very few moments I thought were a bit
Mhm.
clunky in the film.
Well, you can't cast an actor like Idris Elba and not give him something to you know something to work with. You got to give him a scene
Yeah.
or two where you can show his range.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I feel like.
Yeah.
You know,
Hey, showed
So
range acting with a CGI rat. Like, he can do anything.
it's true. The same reason you have him taking off his helmet in every other scene because like you can't hire an actor like that and have him under a mask during the
Mm.
entire movie unless you're Judge Dredd and Carl Urban.
or Pedro Pascal and Mandalorian.
But even
Oh,
his
yeah.
mask came off eventually.
I
Yeah.
know they come out, but like yeah. No, I mean you want the connection, there with a
Mhm.
person's face for
Yeah.
sure.
Mhm, mhm.
None of them leave
Well,
their
it's like the
masks
same
on.
reason Deadshot really didn't wear his whole ton because he's Will Smith. Like you hired Will Smith, you better be Will Smith in this movie.
Mhm. Yeah, you're gonna get your money's worth. What the hell was with the Peacemaker's helmet? What is that?
The toilet seat.
Toilet bowl, yeah.
Yeah, the toilet bowl. That was great.
I don't know. I mean, y- I like, that's the thing, these characters come from somewhere, and you can look at a lot of DC characters and Marvel characters too, and you think that's a real character.
Mhm,
Someone wrote that or
mhm.
drew
Mhm.
that, and that's supposed to be a serious foil to Batman or someone.
Right.
You know, it's like all the dropouts. Oh, there's
Mhm.
who's the Flash is going against this time? The
Yeah.
Reverse Flash. Oh
Mhm,
wow, creative. And so they're ridiculous, a lot of these people. And so to see them finally in the setting where they're treated ridiculously
Mhm.
makes
mhm.
sense if you're going to use these characters, as opposed to, yeah, the first one that's this dark brooding thing that, wants to be a more hip hop version of The Dark Knight,
Mhm.
you know, with characters that, short of a few of them,
Mhm.
Deadshot or whatever, like those could be made serious. Same with Bloodsport. Like there's a few in there that could be done seriously, but
Yeah,
Ratcatcher and
I quite enjoyed Peacemaker's ensemble. It was definitely like homemade. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just so like, did you just pull on some like rubber cleaning gloves and like rubber rain boots over your khakis and
Mhm.
like I don't know what the hell is going on with this helmet, but like it's clearly not like high tech, you know,
Mhm.
whatever. It's just like something you made in metal shop or whatever. It's I don't know.
yeah.
I enjoyed that part of his like there wasn't a whole lot of try in this costume. Whereas like blood sports is clearly like somehow like
Yeah,
super high
advanced.
tech, state of the art crazy.
Mhm.
And can I say thank goodness for someone standing up and hitting that bitch in the side of the head.
That
I
was
am
hilarious
so
with that golf club that she was
I
using to practice putting earlier. That was hilarious.
yeah,
Oh,
what's her name again?
Amanda
Isla
Waller.
Yeah,
Davis or
Waller.
Amanda Waller?
Oh my god. I hate her in the first one. I hate her in the second one. I get like what she's I get you're dealing with bad people. You're dealing with people that have killed many people and all this stuff. So like why do I care about them or whatever? But
Mm.
when you're having them do something good, something powerfully is the idea, then yeah, I don't know. You just like she is insufferable to me and
Mm.
she's just so awful. So she plays the role to a T because man, I hate
Yeah.
her.
I love Viola Davis. Like she is amazing. And I'm not gonna lie. I was with Waller in the whole like the weasel was drowning and she just like hard side eyes everybody around her. And I was like, yep, I feel that. Like, I'm with you
No
here.
one checked if he could swim.
Right? And she just like side eyes the guy, and I was just like, yeah, yeah. But yeah, she was like a lot more over the top, I felt like in this one. Her like anger at the Suicide Squad
Mhm.
was just like intense, and I just liked her very much less. In the first one, I felt like at least she was a very remote, cool presence. Like she was just like, I'm in charge, whatever, I got this. And then this one, there was like a lot more emotion in it.
She just felt dull in the first one though. So I felt like they were trying to add more character to her here.
Everything
Yeah.
felt
Uh,
dull in the first one.
Yes.
oh, come on now.
We could talk about
There's
how much I hated
I
that
like
movie.
when they're like jumping in the pit of ooze and stuff, and they're falling
Uh,
slow motion and the music's going nice and
oh, you mean the side story that had nothing to do with
yeah,
anything?
Yeah.
yeah.
The
The
part, the
the
part,
part where
the actual parts of the movie. Okay, I'll give you that, John. I did kind of like the Harley Quinn Joker side plot thing that happened in the original. I think that was
Mm.
maybe the only appealing part of that entire movie. It was the Lakeland
okay,
bits, and that was
okay. Yeah.
For me,
yeah. Okay,
honestly,
okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm
okay,
with you.
okay.
Apparently they shot way more Joker, Harley stuff. That's why
Uh-huh.
everybody
Well,
wants the
yeah.
Ayer cut, or
Oh
not
God.
everybody. That's why 3 people want
Some
the Ayer
people.
cut, you know.
Okay, I don't know that I want it, but I would be interested in seeing it. Like seeing what
I would
else was
watch it,
shot.
yeah.
Like
Mm.
I would watch it just to be like, what did you think about this movie or whatever? But I was gonna say for the first Suicide Squad, I really enjoyed actually Will Smith and Margot Robbie's interactions, like Deadshot and
Mm.
Harley's like asides. I
There
felt like
was.
there was something there,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and I
I
was
agree
like,
with you.
yeah, like there could have been something really cool, and then I mean, they were just unfortunately in a mess of a movie where you couldn't really go anywhere with it. But there was like
Yeah,
a feeling of potential there.
yeah. It did. I agree with you totally. Like I feel like there were moments where it was like, oh, this is going to be something,
Hmm. But
but
it
then
let
it
you
wasn't.
down.
It
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
anything.
The
Like it
movie
was
let you
just
down.
like, yeah, there was. I mean, I know Will Smith is a good actor. I've seen him act well in other movies. I know Margot Robbie's a good actor, and she, if anybody, did the best with what she was given.
Hmm.
And I also think what we got from the Deadshot Will Smith was not to his fault. Like I think it was the material that was lacking, that didn't
Mhm.
really allow him to do anything, like,
Right.
besides, be a good shot, I guess.
Mhm.
I think the most interesting scene he was in was his introduction scene where he was, like, setting up a sniper thing on a rooftop, talking to a guy about how he wanted more money and, like, pulling off this weird trick shot to kill a dude.
Mhm.
That was, like, within the first 10 minutes of the movie starting, so
Yeah. Yeah, that's like one of the examples of that movie setting you up for something cool to let you down.
mhm,
Like, yeah, you were like, I'm in, like, cool. Will Smith is like working it, and then yeah, just
yeah.
yeah.
So, whereas I thought, Margot Robbie slash Harley Quinn dominated that first movie, I feel
Mhm.
like John Cena and the Peacemaker, take the cake in this movie.
Mhm. I agree
It's
with you.
interesting because I heard someone else saying like, so because they're supposedly going to do a Peacemaker spinoff
TV
or a
series,
series or
yeah.
something like that,
Mhm,
Nice. I'd
and
watch that.
their take was, God, he's like was the weakest one. Like, why do we want to see that?
What?
he's the
Um,
most interesting. He has the
But
most potential for growth.
how is he the weakest one, like, when you think about, like, Polka Dot Man?
hey,
Like,
I liked Polka Dot Man.
I
I
did
thought,
too,
see,
but, like,
Or Javelin.
there wasn't, like, anywhere to go. Do you
I
know what I
mean, to
mean? Like, I
me,
liked what he was there for, and that was, like, fine, but, like, I didn't leave the movie thinking, like, "Man, I'd love to know more about Polka Dot Man." Do you know what I'm
Mhm,
saying?
yeah,
Like, I left the movie being
yeah.
like, "John Cena as Peacemaker, like, I could watch some more of this."
mhm,
I
Especially if,
think
like, Idris Elba were to, like, cameo in there or something.
mhm,
I think it's a mistake to do this spinoff most likely. Like I could be wrong and it could change it, but the to me what makes this film work is the ensemble cast. Like you need to have the other characters. You need to have them
mm.
interact with one another in the way that they do. You
Well,
know,
John,
the
I
people
don't
that
think the TV show is gonna be a one-man show. I think it's gonna have other characters.
well, okay, all right, fine. But I mean, are they going to be other? They got to be other zany characters, right? They have to match
Yeah,
him in in weird scenarios in this odd, or they try to make it a more serious thing, or is he just dealing with regular people? Like, I mean, obviously they could go anywhere with it. I'm just saying, like, there's not a focus per se in this. Obviously, Harley gets plenty of time to shine. Obviously, we kind of go through this from the position of Bloodsport, you
Mhm.
know, but we get pieces of everyone, and it is an ensemble cast. They all are important there, and if you took away two of them, it'd be a lot less of a film for it. So if we have just Peacemaker as the one weird zany guy that's doing some missions, I think that's going to be boring unless we really get another zany cast of odd situations and people
mhm.
to
Well,
match them up against.
the TV series, from what I've pulled together at the 11th hour here before we started airing, was that it's like a 8 episode season, and it um, mostly centers around and it's written and created by James Gunn, so it's going to be like
Oh,
Mm.
nice.
continuation of what he did with the movie, so it's not like somebody else is
Okay,
taking the reins and creating something from what he created.
that's good.
So I
Yeah.
would imagine he has a vision for what he wants to do with this character after the movie.
Wait a minute.
So
Someone in
that
Hollywood has a plan for their content? Like, I'm confused. Like,
yeah,
don't we
right.
just like kind of do this shit like however we feel like it, whenever?
Shoot something and then
Uh,
figure out the rest later. Like,
yeah,
hey, if it's
right.
a success, then we can, you know,
Well, that
then we
is
Yeah.
can come out
that
with
is
another 2 movies. Then we can come out with The Empire Strikes Back. Once we know we've found our cash cow, we can create 2 more movies and try to get
Yeah.
more of that sweet green.
I was gonna say that is the
Hmm.
DC way.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then just milk that cow till it's dry.
Utter is just saggy boob.
Hmm.
Yep. Uh okay. Yeah. Well, that okay. I'm more excited now. You've convinced me. So, yeah.
And I think there's from the cast list, it looks like there's a few returning characters from the movie,
Okay.
but not the hero anti-hero characters. It's like it looks like it's the whatever, the handlers.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be fun.
Hmm.
They were
So
they were like a small like gem in this.
yeah.
Like that was like enough of everybody there at whatever agency with Amanda
Hmm.
Waller.
Yep.
I
Yeah,
forget what it is.
I thought that could be interesting. Is like him kind of working more exclusively with them as sort of like a team, and you know they were
Yeah.
funny enough commenting while the Suicide Squad was running through their whatever their
Sure. Well, are we missing something? Feel like we've had a little bit of a variety. We all enjoyed it, but
Mhm.
to varying degrees. And Shane, you were a good sport and went to go back and watch the original one.
I
Yeah.
figured if I didn't
So
watch
that
it
was-
now for this, I would never see it. So
Yeah, that's true.
And now you know
Probably.
you never have to see it again.
exactly, and I never will. I don't care. Director's cut, forget it. I'll read the Cliff's notes on that one. So
I'll watch it for you, and I'll
oh,
I'll
thanks,
let you
Jeff.
know.
Yeah.
Hmm.
If we
Appreciate it.
ever get it, if there's ever
It's
the
not gonna
swell that
happen.
there was for
Yeah,
Snyder.
it's. I think it's done. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know Ayers is like, I'm not talking about it anymore, except to say like this wasn't the
I'm not
movie
talking about
I
it.
made. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm not gonna talk about not talking about it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we don't know anything about what it was supposed to be.
Like
We just
plot
know there was a.
wise, no. Yeah, there's just sort of like hints about what happened on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, we just know there was a lot more Joker and
Hmm.
Harley footage shot.
Hmm.
They said like another movie's worth of footage was shot that just
Hmm.
none of it was used.
Yep.
Hmm.
So
Which
so
is
much
why
Joker.
Yeah, which is why a lot of like the first one felt like really choppy and like suddenly we're here and suddenly we're like,
But you can
going on
see
this
it
like little
again
side mission. Yeah.
Mhm.
running into a thing where they're calling it the Suicide Squad, but if it's just going to be about Harley and the Joker, shouldn't it just be like Harley and the Joker?
Yeah.
You know, Joker and the Harley Quinn. That's what it could be. And then that movie could set up a potential Suicide Squad thing. It's
Hmm.
very much like Birds of Prey. It was called Birds of Prey, and it's
But it
not
was
Birds
really
of Prey
Harley's. Yeah.
at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
It's a Harley movie.
And then they
So
retroactively renamed the movie when it was in theaters to try to draw more people in to see it by making I think they changed the title. They changed it from Birds of Prey being the main name to Harley Quinn colon Birds of Prey.
really,
Oh, really?
Mhm.
I didn't
Yeah.
hear that.
I
Yeah, they
mean,
should have
I
just
wouldn't
stuck
be
with that from the
surprised.
beginning. I
Mhm.
mean, like it's definitely a misnomer for like what you're getting.
Yeah.
I do have to say I enjoyed that film far more than I enjoyed Suicide Squad.
I did
Um,
too. I did too. I did not as many times did I pause the movie just to see how much time was left as I did when I watched Suicide Squad.
yeah,
Like I think I only did it one time.
yeah.
Wow.
I mean, there were certainly issues with it. I'm not saying like, oh my god, it was so good, but like there were a lot more elements that I was like, yeah, like this is a little bit more fun. This is a little bit better put together.
Mhm.
More narratively made sense. Like,
Mhm.
do I wish they could have done like X, Y, and Z better? Definitely.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, at least it was a better showing than
Yeah.
Suicide Squad.
It definitely didn't. They learned. I feel like they at least learned some lessons from Suicide Squad, and they
Hmm.
weren't taking themselves as seriously.
Right.
Clearly,
Right.
I think I lost my camera.
Looks like it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Sorry, you froze a little bit, but
Yeah, I
At least you're not like
I
frozen
enjoyed it
mid
enough.
sneeze face.
Yep. I enjoy it enough too. It's a shame what they did to the Birds of Prey. Like we
Yeah.
could have had a really cool Birds of Prey movie, and we didn't have that. We had
Mhm.
an okay Harley Quinn movie that
Yep.
featured some vaguely similar Birds of Prey characters. So, okay, well, Shane is frozen,
I'm still
literally
here. You just
frozen.
can't see me.
Yep, it's all right.
Oh,
Oh,
Alan
Alan's
took you
covered
away.
you up. Yep, you're
I just have to.
done.
I have to get a
Done.
legit camera. Quit using my phone. I think that's.
Yeah, yeah, yep. All right. Well, we talked about, I don't know, we covered the bases tonight. I think we
Yeah.
covered both Suicide Squads. You know, you got a twofer here. If you came here for a Suicide Squad, you got
And
both
if you
done.
came here for Suicide Squad, not knowing which one you were gonna get,
You got it.
you got it,
Yep.
and then some. So
Yep. So that'll do it for us, everyone. That's episode 71 of Popcast on the Rocks. Thank you for joining us. We want to thank Killing the Flower for our theme song. You should check them out on YouTube, Instagram, and Spotify. Usually 3 times a week, can be seen streaming with my brother-in-law, Lucas333. That's Lucas with a K on Twitch. So give him a follow. You should follow all of our content here on Twitch if you're watching live, or on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe, leave comments, that sort of thing. Share it out to other people. Or if you're just an audio listener, that's fine too. And whatever your podcast directory of choice is, please like, review, share, all that kind of thing there as well. If you like talking about silly, nerdy things like we do, then I'm sure you know other people that like talking about silly, nerdy things as well.
Mhm.
So, otherwise, yeah. Shane, thanks for jumping in again and
it was
joining
my
us on this
pleasure. It was an
adventure.
absolute delight to join you again, anytime.
Excellent.
Great.
We'll hold you to that.
All right.
And Andrea, as always, thanks again for being here.
Of course.
And
Cheers.
we'll see you next time. Yeah.
Bye.